All right. I guess that means you're here. Of course, I didn't even clear my throat yet. All right. Let's do this. Awesome. Yes, I love the on air like thing. So I did. That's it's AI generated, but it's a tool that I use for. I'm answering Josimar who made the illustration that we use. It's Canva. I do a number of them because Valentina is not always available to help me with thumbnails and things. And so we have Canva for the company, and so I can use it for this. And I was able to learn how to do a bit of stuff. And I've actually had quite a bit of luck using it. It works really well. So I'm very happy with Canva and its output for things. So which one of what? Which Canva? It's the abstract art AI or whatever. Which AI? It's completely Canva. It's a built-in custom one that they own or they license and have a brand of. But they give quite a few options, and they have a couple AIs now built in, but it's the standard one when you go to an add elements. Yeah, Canva is great. I'm very happy with them. They came up with an idea that worked really well. That got them a lot of market, and they just kept go. Yeah, we have Pro. We've got a number of users on it, so it's been good. And for 5 users, which is what we use, it works out really well. Like it's really not it's not a ridiculous price or anything. We're very comfortable paying for that and using it all the time. So I highly recommend it. If anyone is not a professional artist and looking for a system where you can get an awful lot of stuff done without needing to learn a lot of hard tools, I think it works really well. It's been good, and we use it extensively for a lot of projects. But really, the thing we use it most for is the thumbnails for the show. Because if Valentina's not around, when she's around, she uses Photoshop or Illustrator, some Adobe tool, because she's a professional artist. But when she's not, and even when she is, sometimes she's like, I just need something, and she whips it off from there. But I like the bald, big bearded character that they always use because it looks surprisingly like me. So it works out really well, and the selection that I do generates a palette that I like. So I'm not sure how to change some of that stuff, but I found a set of things that works pretty well for me. So how does it look and sound? I know there's some delays definitely on the video from time to time, but it seems pretty clear that it's from listening to the test that we did earlier that the audio works. I forgot to turn on my other light. Hold on. We should be. Wow, that's bright. Okay, hopefully that looks better. That might be too much. It's really bright over here. Patricia asked, what am I using? I just go here. Well, what am I using for what? The chat sometimes is out of sync because I'm getting it and always know the context. I'm going to play around with. We actually have 2 cameras. So for those who are interested, which is probably no one, but just in case you are, the main camera that I'm pointing at is the Fuji XS20. I'm on the Fujinon 18-55 at about 32 millimeters. We should be on the Provia profile, and hopefully it looks pretty good. I've got a light up here. I've got a light over here, which you can kind of see. And then if I switch, I seem to have this working. This is the Sony ZV-1, and please excuse this disaster of stuff going on over here. But yeah, this is definitely not as good a camera, but it's holding the microphone, and so it's food, audio, and video here. I'm guessing you were going to say full, but food, audio, and video is good as well. And so this is the Sony ZV-1. This is the little white one that I keep in my pocket. I couldn't find a way to hold the microphone without putting it on a camera because that's how it attaches. So I was being lazy. So I'm like, I'll just set up a camera. And then I'm like, well, I want to see how the Sony looks. Notice the seeking. It doesn't have as good of autofocus. Oh, what did I do? I did something terrible. I did not hit the button that I meant to hit. This is what I wanted to hit. It should make the background blurry. A little bit, maybe. I don't know. So we're going to actually switch off to this while I sneeze. Oh, now I don't need to sneeze. I didn't want to have like a full sneeze on camera. I sneeze sometimes, and I cut it off. So the Sony over here, which is not the one we're on, definitely doesn't look as good, but it does look good. Like it's got a good overall image, and it does a good job, and it's really small and compact. I like it for a lot of things. Its audio isn't very good. The audio here is going from a Rode studio mic directly into the broadcast kit, so it's not going through any camera at all, which is nice. I listened to a demo that we did 20 minutes ago, and it sounded fantastic. So I love this new mic. It is the best mic I own, and it's a new one. So for things like this live stuff, I think it's going to make a big difference. It needs a longer cable. I can't move anything because it's so close. But between this mic and that that camera, I think it gives a pretty good combination. Other than the LiveStream seems to freeze up quite a bit. We were talking about an app for editing and generating AI images. I use Canva, which is what makes the thumbnails that you see on a lot of the videos when Valentina's not making them. If I have to make them, I'm using Canva because I'm not an artist in any way, shape, or form. Yes, you do need to buy a wheelchair off Craigslist. I'm aware of that. One time was photography video as a hobby or something that developed later in life. So I grew up in Rochester, New York, which is the photography town, right? Basically, all modern photography comes from Rochester, New York. Both Kodak, which is where my father worked growing up, and me growing up. He grew up on a farm and then worked at Kodak as an adult. That'd be weird. And then my wife, when she first got into IT, worked for Fujifilm, which is what we're on, a Fujifilm camera here. And they are also based in Rochester, New York, believe it or not. Their headquarters is Japan, but their filmmaking and some of their imaging stuff is actually right next door to Kodak. Like the two biggest in the world at one point were like basically on the same street. So I grew up in the imaging town with access to cameras and film and stuff, and a culture of it that normal people didn't. So I got my first camera at 8 years old, just a cheap little thing, like an instant camera basically. And it wasn't, but it was a Kodak disc for those who can remember it. And I did a bit with that, enough that Fuji magazine actually picked up my work from 1984. When I was 8 years old, because they found some of the old film stuff interesting from really low format cameras, and I ended up being very much into photography as a kid. I started somewhere around 10 to 12-ish doing photojournalism competition at Eastman Kodak in the Kodak Camera Club. And then when I was in high school, I was very into it all during those years. I always did my own darkroom work. I did tons of like high school sports, not like officially. I would just go. It was a great way to meet girls and stuff. I would go film the girls' sports. It was just camera, right? So but like basketball games, you would get all this stuff because the professional newspaper people went to the men's games, to the boys' games in high school. And I was 16, I could drive, and I have a camera. And at that point, I had bought like a real Nikon SLR, so like I had a big lens, and like I looked like I worked for the newspaper, except I was young. So I would walk into any high school in the area, just go to the girls' high school games, walk out onto the court or wherever as if I had permission to do things, and take loads of photographs. And then I would share them with the school or share them with the athletes. And it was a really good way to meet a lot of people. And a really good way to get a lot of experience because I wasn't in the way of other photographers. And people really appreciated it because there was this gap. Like all these girls are like, oh, we never get pictures like this. And so some of the stuff that I did during that era, and I had access to the Kodak Camera Club. So I was dark room printing posters from these shoots. And so they would get sports posters taken with a professional camera. I had professional film, and I had been trained at the Eastman Kodak Camera Club. And then I was printing my own darkroom stuff. So they were getting poster sizes, but posters are printed. These were poster sizes, but they were photographs. So if you were not a member of the Kodak Camera Club, every one of these photographs would have cost hundreds of dollars back then. It would be in the thousands today equivalent, and I was doing it for nothing. Like it was so cheap. It would got like a sheet of paper would be like 10 cents. So for me, it was this really cheap thing and really interesting. And so I did that, and I had this portfolio of I did a lot. So I had quite a bit of pretty good shots, basketball, track and field, different things. And then our local newspaper, Gannett newspaper, put out an ad saying they needed a second photographer. They used 2 at the paper. Their primary was still there, and their backup, or their whatever junior, they had an opening. And I remember saying to my mom, that would be cool. What a great job. I've always done photojournalism stuff, and that would be cool. And she's like, why don't you go do that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm a teenager. I'm in high school. I can't just go work for the newspaper. And she's like, why? I'm like, because I don't have a degree. And then they're like, you think they care if you have a degree? Like, 1, there's no one else who knows how to do this. 2, you just take a portfolio. Portfolio trumps education. I'm like, really? She's like, trust me, this is not how the world works. They don't care where you learned how to take photographs. They don't care that you're 17. They care that you have a car and a camera and you can do the job. And I'm like, okay. So I went to the newspaper and I just walked in. I'm like, hey, I hear you're looking for a photographer. I do some photography. And they're like, yeah, you got a portfolio? I'm like, I do. And I had this huge portfolio case because it was all poster-sized darkroom work. And I handed it to them. So, of course, they'd never seen anything like this before. Of course, as a teenager, I'm like, every professional must have this stuff. Now, as an adult, I know no professional had this stuff. I definitely showed them things that their head photographer, who'd been there for forever, did not have. And so I handed them that, and they looked through it, and they hired me on the spot. And then, so I worked as a newspaper photographer for a while, and it was a really good experience. I don't know that I would recommend it as a career, but it was a really good experience, and really cemented, that being a professional photographer made it a lot more, fun or interesting to do that kind of stuff. So that was really what, growing up with it, and then getting that opportunity really young to do professional work made it just a lot of fun. And so I've always stuck with it, and then switched to digital at some point. So what was the other question? Most of it is pretty objective. I want to hear 3 things that peeve you about living abroad, not specifically Nicaragua. I know you did a video about this a while back, but wow. So 3 things that I hate about living abroad. Definitely one is the access to shopping. And I've never lived anywhere where I don't have bad access to shopping, right? It's always bad. Nicaragua's the worst, right? Like shopping, like, oh, I want this new camera, this one right here, right? The effort to get this in Nicaragua is extreme. I have to somehow travel to the U.S. or some other market, Panama, to get it and order ahead of time and like do all this scheduling. And when I lived in like Crete, when I lived in Transylvania, similar problems, smaller scale, but still had those problems. And so that's, that is one of the big things. Just there's so much convenience, and now there's negatives to having that convenience, but there's no denying that the convenience and low cost of shopping for general crap, for everything from I need new socks to I need a new camera to I need parts for things in the U.S. is really second to none, and Amazon makes it all you can have it the same day. Like we don't have anything like that, so that's a pet peeve that I have to give that up for sure. I think the incredibly good access to a wide variety of food. That's not to say quality of food, right? I'll take the food here over most anywhere, but over the U.S. I mean, anywhere in the U.S. But in the U.S. we had such a variety of food that was so extreme, and it was a really big deal, right? That we would always be able to get something different. You feel like Mexican, you feel like pizza, you feel like you name it. You could go get it at any moment, and that was huge. And living here in Nicaragua, you can get good food most times, but when you want like, oh, I'm feeling like, no, once you start saying that, it's going to end badly. Whatever you're feeling like, we're not going to be able to get. So that is tough. My third pet peeve is probably, if I had a little bit more time to think about it, I'd probably have something more dramatic, but is the general transportation outside the country. Inside the country is very good here, but if you're living here and you want to, and this is true most places, there's exceptions. Mexico's pretty good. If you're going to then hop a plane and you want to travel to some really interesting part of the world, coming from the United States gives you nearly endless options, and it's mind-blowing to anyone from anywhere else just how good the US has it. And it's actually hard to really understand how good the US has it, because it's so extreme that you just, where do you feel like going? Oh, there's a ticket directly there. You're like, really? Directly? Like, how is that possible? No, there really is, to just about anything. And so that you get used to growing up in the US and living there for a long time. And then when you move somewhere else, especially Nicaragua, so it's extreme here, you end up in this, I have to take this one midnight flight down to wherever, and then Panama, and then I've got to get a flight somewhere else, and then you got to pass through somewhere else, and it's this really big, never-ending struggle to do simple things, and that really sucks. So those are at least three pet peeves. I don't know if they're the most, but I was asked to show one of my old photographs. So this is Niagara Falls, 1984, taken with a Kodak disc camera. Are you impressed that I was able to bring that up on a live stream while I was chatting? I should get some award for that, because that was not easy. But that is taken the first month, at least, that I had the camera, I think. But I got the camera at 8 years old, 1984, and a lot of the pictures I took that first year was the ones that I got into better cameras after that. So that is Niagara Falls. This is a bird flying over. I'm not sure exactly where. I could identify it with time. That might be Otter Cliffs in Mount Desert Island, Maine, at Acadia National Park. These are all Kodak disc cameras. And then these are seagulls on the coast somewhere near Otter Cliffs. Same place, Mount Desert Island. I got the camera while on a family vacation to Maine. And it was my first year in Maine, and it was the first time I did a car drive that long, which now I'd be like, I can just hop in the car and go to Maine. Like, that's not a thing. But at the time, I was a terrible traveler. Ready? I was a terrible traveler as a child, like absolutely awful. And I learned later in life that my parents were not good travelers either. So we exacerbated each other. But they took 2 days to go to Maine. And it's a one driver, 1 day drive from Rochester, New York. But they would take 2 days. It was such a long drive. So I got the camera partway there, and then I used the camera to take photographs on that trip. So that's why a lot of them come with shots. A lot of my good shots are there at the time. Now, I'd done photography before this, but always using my dad's camera. And he didn't like me using his camera because he had a nice camera, and I was 8. So, all right, I'm way behind on the chat. Josie Marr says PC for me. Milton, hola, I like these live sessions. I like doing these live sessions. When everything works, this is fun. Like, I get to talk to you guys. Like, I mean, we always chat in the the comments. It's totally different. Coming back to Nicaragua in March. This is Martin. Really enjoy all the information you put out. The new equipment is working really well. Nice upgrade. Oh, awesome. I'm glad to hear it. So for those who didn't hear it, I've got the Sony here too, but I have to turn it on and then switch over to it and then go back. But the Fuji looks so much better. But this is the first time that I seriously set up a bit of stuff in the studio. And I said on another session, I can't do this easily while we're talking. I'm going to post a picture of this all while I'm doing the session. Like I took the camera on the last one and took a picture. So you can see I've got a TV set up now on the desk, so I can see the pictures that are queued up and the different cameras, and I can see what's live going out, and if the cache is healthy, if the stream rate is good. And it's worth mentioning, we tried this about an hour ago, a little bit less than an hour ago, and we had all kinds of technical issues because it said the stream wasn't fast enough. And now the only issue we're getting is that we're sending too much, and we've got it turned all the way down. But both over here, if you see me looking over here, I'm looking at YouTube telling me what's going on, which is pretty cool because I can see you guys in real time and I can see you chatting. And then over here, I've got a big monitor that shows me everything that I can send out and what I'm actively sending out. And then right here, I've got a monitor showing me controls that help me like pick the media and stuff. And then down on the desk, I have an actual physical board that I'm doing the broadcast that all the cables are going into from all the cameras and the mic and everything. And we're on the road, professional mic, mic'd directly into that board. It's not going through a camera. But in theory, with the way I have this set up, this camera is actually on wired power, so it should not run out of power. It's plugged into USB and it's streaming out on HDMI. So it's pretty cool. All right, I'm losing chats as they go off the screen, so I'm going to read these. Josie Mars said, share some of your photos from when I was 8. There's a saying that life corrupts your creative eye. It would be cool to have a glimpse of that and compare it to your evolution. Actually, that's true. I think so. I had, when I was 8, I remember my dad being like, what are you doing? And some of the photos that I took when he was like, you're wasting film, are now ones that magazines have asked for. So, who knows? I definitely feel like I was more creative back then, but I'm starting to get a lot more of that back. And I find that being older, buying new cameras, this is just an excuse. I'm making terrible excuses. I find buying new cameras to be incredibly inspirational, and I find cheap cameras to especially inspire me quite a bit. So the Sony ZV-1 that you guys in the community helped me get, bought for me basically, is I find awesome. I'm starting to actually put that in my pocket and carry it around. So I'm like going to restaurants, I'm going to a cafe and stuff. I actually have it in my pocket. Like I said I was going to do that. I am doing it and it works. I pull it out and my daughter, Liesel, my eldest, who likes photography, every time I pull it out, she's so like into that camera. She's like, can I take pictures with it? And it's, it's not like a big heavy thing. It's not hard. She just plays with it. And she goes and does walking tours with me and does photographs. And she'll take like a big DSLR and stuff. But this one, she gets excited. She's like, I like holding it. I like how it takes a picture. So she's really enjoying that. And she likes using my small Olympus, which is not so expensive, an EPL-9 for those who are interested. Right? She loves taking that out, and it's not so much that you feel like it's really hard to go take pictures. It's like, just go have fun. And so I think if you can figure out the right gear to have for some of us, that brings out that childlike, it doesn't matter, just take a picture. Try something different. Look for a cool angle kind of thing. Fresh food over the poison here in America. For sure, yeah, America has a great variety of unhealthy food. Here we have a very small variety of very healthy food. Nicaragua has very few cons to everyday life. Yeah, that's definitely, for the most part, true. We certainly have our things, but when you add them all up, it's like every day I wake up thankful that I'm in Nicaragua. Do you know why they're closing the consulate for passports here in Los Angeles and Texas? I think Nicaragua is getting worse. Relations between Nicaragua and the U.S. Are not great. They're not in like screaming at each other currently kind of mode, but I don't know anything specific about those consulates. But I don't know how much Nicaragua needs those things in the United States. I don't know how busy those places are. So I don't know if they're just closing them because they find that they're not needed, or if they are, cutting back on expenditures or whatever. But as long as they're operating something in the U.S., I assume you just mail in and it's not a big deal, probably. Crazy good tech, yeah, for sure. This new Fuji is amazing. A lot of outlets rank this as the camera of the year. I waited 3 years to get this specific camera, and this is a brand new release. So you guys are seeing it within, 2 months of it hitting the market. I was so excited. It checked every box just perfect. And I love my Olympus, which is probably not sitting here. Is it? It's just out of reach. I will. Nope. That's not it. I don't know where my Olympus is. I was going to show you guys the Olympus that I do a lot of stuff with, that anytime I use it, you guys are like, wow, it looks so good. And it does, but it's so hard to use. So as much as I absolutely love what it does, and I highly recommend Olympus, and I have people who've spent thousands of dollars moving into Olympus after I said that, and they write to me and they're like, thank you so much. This was amazing. I love this gear. And I've taken the Olympus out here in Nicaragua, and photographers, professional photographers, have come up to me and they're like, oh, what do you got there? A Nikon, a Canon? I'll be like, oh, it's an Olympus. And they go, what? You have an Olympus? Like, it's not expensive. Well, it is, I guess, but it's not outrageously different than good Sony or Nikon or Canon, but they don't make lower end cameras, and it's all but inaccessible here. So it's more that it's rare than it is expensive. But they're like, what? Most everyone here uses DSLRs, so you can't do video and stuff with them. So that I have high-end mirrorless cameras that can do really high-end video is a very big deal on the local market. Patricia says she's impressed. Thank you. Not really impressed with me. X-Men, we can't get any passport. What passport is it that you need to get a Nicaragua passport issued in the U.S., I assume? I would guess that the embassy in Washington handles that. I'm not sure. It's under most circumstances, it's a very easy flight back to Nicaragua. I know I just booked flights from Rochester, New York to Managua is $106. So it's about the same price as getting a passport in the United States from the United States to come to Nicaragua and get your Nicaragua passport. Not that that's always an option. That's why you need consulates. But in general, the U.S. doesn't have any consulates in Nicaragua. We only have the embassy in Managua. So it's kind of operating the same, just the U.S. is a much bigger place. Josie Marr, concur. Haha, my flight is midnight at 2 a.m. tomorrow. That's right. I forgot. You're going up to Miami. Oh, thank you on the photo. He's heading up to Miami tomorrow. I am not heading to the States until March 6th. And then I'm going to be hanging out in the most American of all places, Diagon Alley at Universal Studios. No, that's London. It's a recreation of London. But I'm going to take my kids to the Wizarding World. I've never been, so I'm very excited because I'm a big Harry Potter fan. How's your experience been in terms of making new friends in Nicaragua? I'm going to do my best here from Hayo Cheerio. Oh, it's Hayo Cheerio. Okay. I thought it was like a Spanish name or something. Nope, that's Hayo Cheerio. Really well, I would say. Like, it's not been a challenge in any way. Now, our experience is a little bit different than most. Like, we lived abroad a bunch of places. We speak some Spanish before we came here. It gets much harder if you have like a family, or you come with a group of people, or you live in an enclave. If you live in an enclave, you might make friends with people in the enclave. But any of those things actually make it harder to make friends with people not in that enclave. Not that people will avoid you, it's that you will have this easy access to people to talk to or whatever, and you just won't go out and do things. We lived on the beach. So first, we lived in Nicaragua in 2015. Briefly, we didn't really make friends then. A few, but very few. Although some of, like, the wedding that I'm prepping for right now is the wedding of the sister of someone I met when we were here in 2015. So that's how we know her. We still have connections from 2015, but they are the exception, not the rule, and they are in Granada. And I think Granada would be more challenging. Here in Leon especially, it's really easy to meet people and make friends. We lived on the beach for the first year when we came back, and on the beach, we definitely made friends on the beach. Like, I don't want to say we didn't make friends. We definitely did, but we made a lot of expat friends and a few Nicaraguan friends. And the beaches are weird. It's easier to talk to people, but they're so transient that it's very difficult, I think, to make good friends there. It's just the whole process is harder. If you are in the city where Josie Marr said, and you're gone. Did something happen? Did you disappear? Maybe I disappeared. Weird. Anyway, so maybe that he messaged me outside the... He's messaging me again. Oh, it's an old message. Okay, cool. I was all confused. Okay. But living in Leon, in the city, Two things that we did that worked out really well. One is we did not move to El Centro. We moved to the Barrio. And being in the Barrio, we were in La Barrio, but that doesn't matter. Being in the Barrio did a couple things. One, everybody in the Barrio was immediately like, oh, you're interesting and you're not trying to separate yourself from Nicaraguan society. We want to get to know you, right? Because you're a foreigner, you have this potential for being just interesting. And that wins. And when you're in the Barrio, it tends to give you a lot of cred of like, oh, you're not trying to avoid Nicaragua. You're not here because it's cheap. You're not here because it's the one place to let you in. You're not here because you think you have to be. You're, for some degree of whatever, you're here because you want to be here. You want to be part of a community. And maybe you're faking it, but it gives that street cred. So when we moved into the Barrio, instantly we made friends with all of our neighbors. We got to know just tons of people, and we would start going out. And even if you're still going out to the same places that you did before you lived in the Barrio, we would go out to a big restaurant and you'd sit at a table with someone, or someone would introduce themselves, and they'd be like, oh, where do you live? You say, I live in La Barrio. And instantly they'd be like, oh, and it was a totally different experience, because the same thing, they knew you were in the Barrio. They treated you not like a local, but they treated you like someone who wanted to be part of the community and someone who has longevity. And then we moved into a far-flung poor Barrio. La Barrio is a rich Barrio. Now we live in a very poor Barrio. And now, once you do that, right, saying where we live to people, they're like, oh, okay, like, cool. You are now integrated in a lot of ways. And so we found quite quickly that the first year was definitely harder making friends. And then after that, it became very easy, very good, that we made loads of friends. And I would say we have, in 3 years of living here, and having moved only over a distance of about 20 minutes by car, made, I would say, quite a significantly noticeably larger pool of friends than we made living in Texas, in Dallas, Texas, for many more years. We lived there over a period of 11 years. We were not continuous, and we did make a lot of good friends there. But some of our best friends there, were friends of ours before we went there. We had already made friends, and then when we got there, we got to be better friends. Not the other way around. So, I think maybe I'm just older. Maybe I'm more outgoing. I don't think that's true. I'm certainly older. I don't think I'm more outgoing than I was when I was young. But I think if you said right now, I'm going to put you down in Dallas, go make a friend at a restaurant, or I'm going to put you down in Leon, Nicaragua, and go make a friend at a restaurant, I bet I will have more new friends in 2 hours here than in the U.S. I feel like if I go out alone to a place in the U.S., my chances of making new friends on a night out like that would be unlikely. Could happen, like, certainly, but unlikely. And even with the language barrier, because my English is great, my Spanish isn't, but I can have conversations. Going out in Leon, the chances that I won't meet someone at a bar and have a conversation and want to hang out or whatever is actually quite low. In one, I would not expect to make new friends, and the other, I would expect to make new friends. Like, it's that big of a difference. The biggest barrier for me in making new friends is I'm hard of hearing, and when we're in a bar or anything like that, the live music or any music, whatever they have playing, it's always super loud. I cannot hear anyone. Cannot hear the words they say, and it's so hard to practice the language. It's so hard to talk to people because in every restaurant, every scenario, I'm completely unable to hear, and that really makes it rough. Thanks, Janet, for being impressed with my ability to bring up a photo on live chat. That is thanks to the black magic board and a few little things I have at the ready, but if I didn't have a control board like that, I don't know how I would potentially do that. Like that would be very hard. So let's see, what are people saying? Josie Marr had to leave He likes these live sessions. Me too. This is really cool. X-Men, do you think it's still safe to travel in Nicaragua? Yeah, absolutely. I realized that Nicaragua got a lot more dangerous this year. Something happened, and we've now matched the United States in overall violent crime statistics, which is certainly bad. But it's not like, come on. Like, are you afraid of traveling in the U.S.? It's relatively dangerous. No, you don't worry about it. Here, we worry about it far less. Traveling in Nicaragua, so the difference is Nicaragua has years where it gets bad, and when it gets really bad, it gets as bad as the U.S. And the U.S. has years where it gets really good. And in 2023, the U.S. was outstandingly good. They actually had their all-time record since they started keeping statistics for the drop in homicides in the U.S. ever, a 14% drop in a single year. So 2023 was the safest year in a really long time, and the safest year by comparison to neighboring years in the history of the U.S. And when the U.S. has a really great year, they get as safe as Nicaragua. So think about that. Nicaragua's most dangerous bounces off the U.S.'s worst, or the U.S.'s whatever average, and the U.S.'s worst bounces off of Nicaragua. So in the grand scheme of things, Nicaragua is far safer, just in general. And it's also important to look at the types of crime, right? In the United States, you're as a visitor, as a tourist, as a for me being there, I'm in that danger pool. I'm not in the super danger pool, right? I'm not like in a gang in an inner city doing something stupid. That would be super dangerous. But just being in the United States makes you quite a bit more dangerous. And being in Nicaragua, almost always the people who are falling into those dangerous situations are not tourists and are in very dangerous spots and are doing relatively dangerous things and this is sad, and are incredibly poor. And so for people who are visiting and traveling to Nicaragua, I think that it leans to, it may not be matching El Salvador this year, but El Salvador and Nicaragua are so extremely safe that it remains like, if you have concerns about safety, if you truly have concerns about safety, then you would be here, right? Or in El Salvador, for sure. You would not be in the places in between. They're fine if you know what you're doing, but if you're really concerned about safety, it's the two of us and Canada are your options. No one else in the hemisphere is in that ballpark, right? The U.S. you'd leave the U.S. if safety was truly a concern. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but it's bad enough that you have three such dramatically safer options that you would go to them. Right. So, yeah, Nicaragua is so safe for travel that all of your danger is in the process of getting here in the first place. Eliezer, hey, Scott, tips on finding houses for rent and Leon. It's so hard. Before I get to that, Josie Mars says, where do I buy a t-shirt? I know we need to get a t-shirt store going. Trying to figure that out. We have a place that here. So what I want to do, I want to make them in Nicaragua. Not because they're cheaper to make in Nicaragua, they are, but I think it would be cool to have actual handmade shirts in Nicaragua that we then sell in the U.S. The price would be the same. By the time we ship them up, it's not gonna change, but the price. So it's a loss that it's cheaper labor here, but we're supporting the local community. Our shirt maker here is just a lady who lives in Ciudad Sandino, and we're her major customers at this little tiny shop on the corner. If anyone wants to buy stuff from her, we'll link her. I think she has a Facebook. Zen Creations, if you want to look it up, in Ciudad Sandino. It's right across the street from the pizza place. And I'd really like to support her, and we could do a little thing and show her shop and show her. So this is the woman making your shirt, right? And she has this cute little shop, and she has supported us and done a bunch of great things. And she makes our coffee mugs, and she makes the Nika Roomba stuff. So she's been fantastic and really good. I'd really like to do that, but we got to figure out how to. So here in Nicaragua, for you, it's easy. We can get that from her. But for the people in the U.S. and Canada, which is the majority of people who might want TV shirts, that would be really cool to be able to ship them up and have an authentic made in Nicaragua shirt. I think that'd be super cool. what was the question? Oh, tips on finding houses in Leon. It is so hard to find houses in Leon. Honestly, all of our findings, every single thing that we've ever done, and we've done it for friends, we do it for us. We've had multiple homes. It's always word of mouth, every single time. It's just it's very hard. I would go around town and look at neighborhoods and make sure you know where you want to be. Make sure you have a feel for Leon. I realize this is just a rent, so just do it for 2 days or whatever. Zip around and be like, okay, I like Guadalupe. I don't like La Barrio. La Barrio is loud. The church is loud. Once you have that, then do some driving around in a neighborhood. They will say for rent, for sale on the buildings. Even if they say for sale, don't be afraid to call and be like, look, I don't want to buy it, but could you rent it? That's a really good process. For us, every single thing was done. And this is awful, right? I hate that this is the answer. But every place we found was because we moved into some place, right? We lived on the beach for a while. And then we had friends look for us in the city. And then when they found something, we moved. And when we wanted to move to the next place, same thing. We asked all of our friends, and someone's like, I know someone you need to talk to. And so this place was because a friend of a friend had it, and it was not for rent. And they called them and like, look, we know you're not in the house. I got someone who can rent it. And it's someone you're going to trust. And they'd never rented the house before. So we're the first renters ever in this house, the only renters ever in this house. And so that's how we've done it. Right. I know people who've tried to use real estate agents. Once in a while, it's worked. Every real estate agent. I have one real estate agent that I like. But has very limited access to things. I'm happy to pass on his information. It's a seller's agent. Do not have him look for houses for you. If he has a house, he'll show it to you. For rent, it's a bit different, but you can't always avoid seller's agents. So he has some houses listed under him. Sort of. So as long as you recognize he's a seller's agent, okay. We've tried to use some of the agencies in town, and it would have been way better to not have talked to them. Every moment we talked to them was wasted. Everything that they said they had was a lie. We would show up at places they claimed they had to show, and then we'd be like, hey, we're at this place. Can you come show it to us? And they'd be like, oh, actually, there's no building behind that wall. Or, oh, we don't actually have it on, we faked the listing or just whatever. It turned out they had nothing. They had zero inventory. And if you look at agencies in Leon and you say, it can't be this one, 100% sure it's that one, right? Every time someone who says, oh, it wouldn't be this one, it's definitely that one. I literally, in all the time I've been doing this show, I've never had someone say, oh, but I found this one, it's the exception, right? That it wasn't the one we were talking about. Never once. Here or in the whole country. How do we meet for pictures when we travel to Nicaragua? We're going soon. How do we meet for pictures? So easy. So I live in Leon, and you can post on the channel, but the best way to really reach me, and everyone who's done this is going to be like, he's really slow about this, so don't trust him, is email the info@relocatenicaragua.com. That is my place to organize people trying to, whether you're trying to get consulting from me or trying to meet up, that's just where we do that. Because if you put it into my Instagram, I seriously, I'll try, but I will lose it in the sea of messages, and then I'll never get back to you, right? And if you're really on top of me, Scott, I'm 20 minutes away. Scott, I'm in town. Are we going to coffee? Let's get a coffee. I'll take some pictures, whatever. Yes, I will probably be okay to make it. But if you're okay, get back to me, I'll be oh, someone said to get back to them. I don't remember who it was. I don't know where that message is. I can't find it now because it just scrolls away from all the people texting me. And so things disappear, and it's hard. But yeah, absolutely. Let me know when you're going to be in town. Are your batteries holding up? Really good lighting. So of all the things that are going on, the only thing that's on battery is the Sony, which is not on. It's just sitting there holding a microphone. So its battery is great, right? I turn it on for 30 seconds, clip away, and then we go right back to the Fuji. So, and the only other thing is this light. I'm going to pick it up so you guys can see it. Woo, it's going to blow me away. This is just a little portable Ulanzi light. Love it. That one, I get about an hour. from the battery, and then I've got to plug it into USB. But the main camera is on full power. Its battery is actually dead. I recorded this afternoon's episode, which you'll see in the morning, with this, and I've not taken the card out of it or anything yet, and I exhausted the battery while we were doing that, and so it's just running off of wall power. This is the Sony that's running off of battery. For those who didn't see it earlier, this is the other camera. So this is the little one. It works for this, but it will not last long. It will burn out. It'll overheat in about 5 minutes. So I'm just using it for these quick little shots just to give you something different. But it's the one that has a zoom. I can do that. Okay. So anyway, no issues here. How do you get rich people yard in a poor barrio? So actually, that's why we have a rich person yard. All the rich people yards are in barrios. I'm sure there's exceptions to that, right? That's not a 100% statement, but it's a very common thing so first of all, barrios in general doesn't imply that it's poor. Patricia's right. I'm in an extremely poor barrio. I'm in the poorest of the barrios of Leon, and but it has the most land, and so there's a tendency for people who want to have secret rich people houses. And especially if they want to have them near family, right? Like, I grew up in the barrio. So for example, I have some friends, and their parents weren't poor, but grew up in the barrio. So they probably were near their parents as kids or whatever. So they have a house in a nice area of the barrio, and then their kids all did pretty well. And so they got houses in the barrio. And so they have like sprawling family, really nice houses, really nice yards, really nice, all in an area, and some other people who did that. And so there'll be these pockets of really nice in the barrios. And one of the reasons that they do that is, one, they're staying close to family. Two, they're keeping it real. Like, that sounds funny. But they are, right? They're not going like, okay, I made money and now I'm moving to Fatima, right? Which is what a lot of people do. And you move up to Fatima and you're like, oh, gosh, this is beautiful. And all of my neighbors are beautiful. And you're like, oh, we're all kind of, yeah, it's a little bit much when I love Fatima, right? Like, I'm not knocking it, but it's a very different existence. It's not an enclave, but it is a completely gated, completely walled off, we're just the rich people area. And, you're not going to have someone out grilling on the street. It's a totally different experience. Beautiful, wonderful. It's a great part of Nicaraguan life. Don't knock it, right? But it's a world apart. And if you walk through the poorest barrios, and I'm not just in Leon, like way out, right? Like, you're just out there and you're like, this is wow, like mud in the streets and water running everywhere and there's no plumbing, and you're like, whoa. You'll come around the corner and there'll be a really nice house, right? And so what often happens is you have parents, they have 5 kids, a couple of them stay home. One of them ends up lawyer, doctor, police, and ends up becoming a police chief. Just some career, starts a little business, it explodes, and they come and they don't need to make $500,000, right? They don't have to make $100,000. If they accumulate $60,000, $70,000, they can go into the barrio, and that lot that they're going to build on, maybe they'll buy 4 lots, and they'll spend $800, not each lot, total, right? And they're like, whatever, cash. And now they have the biggest lot in some little barrio area. And then they put up a giant house. And what does the house cost them? Right? Because they know the construction guys from the barrio. They're not like me. If I go in, I'm going to pay more. But they're from the barrio. Their parents are going to go like, I know your kids. Tell them to give them the same price as everyone else. Okay. Right? So you end up with very low cost of construction, very low cost of living, and they can build for $60,000 a mansion in the barrio. But if they tried to go to Fatima, that would get them a hovel. Right? It may not even get them a lot. But in their barrio, they get to live like a king and have their parents next door and have their siblings around the corner. And then everyone comes over to their house probably 4 nights a week for grilling or whatever, for asada, and watch the games, and that's where you hang out and have some beers. And so it's because of the Nicaraguan culture, which is very family, very hangout, kind of in your neighborhood, stick to your neighborhoods or a neighborhood, not that you have to stay, but it creates very little pressure when you are successful to leave your barrio or not live in a barrio. And so, if I was to build a mansion or something on par with what would match my yard here that you've seen here, I would choose this barrio, right? So I represent someone who would make that same decision. I want to be close to people here. This is where I like the culture. I'd be happy in Guadalupe. I'd love Fundesi, right, which borders Guadalupe. And Fatima would be okay, but I don't want to be away from the core barrios like that. I like being here. I'm glad. Yeah, there's no more delays. Gloria is back. She was the one on earlier and said there was problems. The everything from YouTube says it's fine. So I don't know if YouTube was having a problem. I don't know if it was just, I don't know what it was, but we gave it a little bit. Everything seemed okay. We started again, and it not one error since we started. So maybe we just had to be a little bit later. We were at the prime time or something. I don't know. How did you lose hearing? It's not that I lost my hearing. It's a genetic thing. My father has the same thing. It's I actually hear some things really well, like motor sounds. I hear better than most people. It's a type of hearing problem that is mental, not physical. It's not that my physical ear doesn't work correctly. It's that my brain is unable to process it in the way that most people can. And so things like background noise completely drown out or wipe out voices for me. It's not like normal people can separate them out in a way that I just can't. So I don't hear it at all. How do we meet? No issues. Do you have hearing aids you can use? I do not. That might help. And I do use earplugs when I go to loud events. And then I actually hear most everything much better, but I just can't tell how loud I'm being. I've been watching Immense Coffee, as have I. Great channel. Are most of the coffee farms located up north? Are there any near the major cities like Granada, Leon, San Juan del Sur? Yes, so all of the coffee farms are located up north. None are located in any of these cities. That is a correct statement. The reason for that, coffee needs to grow at very certain temperatures, and we don't have them down here. You have to be in the mountains in Nicaragua to get those. In Guatemala, you have a much greater area that can grow coffee, but here you can grow coffee in most of Matagalpa, most of Jinotega, and most of Esteli. And then obviously Nueva Segovia, which has Acatal, where Immense Coffee is. You've got Madrid, some of those areas up there in the mountains. Anything up against the middle corridor and against Honduras is going to be able to grow coffee, because for those who don't know, Honduras is above Nicaragua. It's one of the funniest things. If you drive from Nicaragua to Honduras, not on the coast, that's different, but if you drive in like the middle of the country, I love taking the Pan American, Esteli, Acatal, up by Immense Coffee, and go by Elton's place, and you head up, and you're like, what's that thing? I'm looking at like this giant ridge, and there's pine trees on top, and we're down here, it's hot, and it looks like it's cold up there. What are we looking at? And you're like, you're looking at Honduras. It's like Nicaragua's here, Honduras is here. It's really like that. It's very funny. So I think you could grow coffee in a small area outside of Managua. However, it is active volcano down there, and so you would have to grow coffee under conditions where you're constantly getting sulfur in the air, and so trees won't grow. I think growing coffee would be hard. You'd be dealing with all kinds of problems from the acidity. So I don't know that you could pull it off, but with the climate, I think would do it. But basically, it's got to be up north. So if you're interested in the whole coffee farming thing, you got to go up there. And if you're down here, like everyone's like, ooh, I want Jinotega coffee. I want Matagalpa coffee. I don't know if anyone can tell the difference, but we get, picky like that, and you buy them from the region. So it's like a thing. Martin's got to go. Enjoy the live stream. Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. That's awesome. Hans-Jürgen, did you and your wife and family have to compromise on things when making the move to Nicaragua? Definitely. I know my wife would need to be sold on some things if we were to make the move there. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, there's always, I assume, did we have to compromise on things with each other? For sure. She would not move until we had a house here, which was incredibly foolish, and she would admit to that now. And so we bought our first house remotely. We had lived here previously. We looked for years. We were on the ground looking, but as tourists coming and going, and we had an office here. For those who don't know, I've had staff here for about 8 years. So we had them involved, and they were, we could not have done it, even with having lived here, even with knowing things, we could not have possibly done it without them. And, looking back, would we have done it the same way? No, that was incredibly stupid. That's one of the reasons I want to have the channel and protect people from that kind of bad decision. But yeah, we compromised on a lot, and we continue to, right? She likes to live down here where it's hot near the beach. She loves the beach. I don't dislike the beach, but I would prefer the mountains 9 times out of 10. So if I was moving to Nicaragua, which I'm the one who said we need to move to Nicaragua, and it took a little bit of convincing for her, but not very much, because she loved it. We had lived here previously. And but it was convincing her that we needed to make Nicaragua our long-term home, right? Which is an interesting thing because we like to travel. We've lived all over, and in doing that, we have to have some place to be a base. You don't really have to, but it's really hard if you don't. And we had used Texas as that base for a long time. For a while, it was our family. We basically moved in with her sister, with her brother at first, and then with her sister. And they live right next to each other. So Houston was our base. And then at some point, we used our house in Dallas as a base. And then to get her to give that up, she had this but we have to find the perfect place first. We haven't lived in Chile. We haven't lived in Argentina, some places that were very high on our could be the perfect place list, and remain really interesting. And we love Spain. Spain remains both of our favorite countries. And when I came back to Nicaragua in 2019, I made it back home. I was here for 2 weeks. And I said, I feel so good being back in Nicaragua. I forgot how much I loved it. I think we need to move back. And it took a little while. She was like, I don't know. And I don't know if I'm ready to commit. I'm like, why do we have to commit? We're not any more committed to Nicaragua than we are to Texas, but we know we don't want to be in Texas. We know we want to be in Nicaragua more. It makes more sense for us than any other place we've ever been and any other place we know about. So why don't we upgrade from a place we know is below any place we've looked at, right? Dallas, Texas was our favorite place living in the United States. My second favorite would be Pittsburgh. Other than, we really loved Ithaca, New York, but the taxes and everything and the snow was just a no. But it's like we lived in 8 countries. All of them we liked more. We have visited 34, 36 countries at that point, all of which we liked more. There was no question that we could go anywhere and like it more than where we were. And so at the end, so we've narrowed it down to our top pick, given everything we know right now, is Nicaragua. Why not, after all these years of doing stuff, shift to Nicaragua, make that our home base, and then later, if we decide there's some place we like more, we move on again. But there's a good chance we'll never want to move on because we know after a ton of work, this is where we want to be. And it took a little bit, and then she was like, we have to buy a house first before I'll even consider going. So I raced to buy a house, sold the house in the U.S., and moved down. And then it ended up being so much better than we had imagined, right? We went from, we had lived in Granada the first time. We didn't make a lot of friends. We weren't here for that long. It was just a much more challenging part of our lives or more transitional. So it was just a lot going on. And when we came down here, it felt, at first, for the first maybe 3 to 6 months, it was kind of like, yeah, we're trying this out. I wonder how long we'll be here. We're going to give it an honest shake, and we definitely are making it part of our ecosystem. But we still had a feeling like, it might only be a place where we were part-time. And then by early 2022, we got a place in Leon, and it was like suddenly we started having lots of friends here, and we started feeling part of the community. We're like, no, this is our place. This is our home base. We still love to travel. We're still going to do a lot of that, but we're definitely making Nicaragua a huge investment with the anticipation that nowhere else will ever be our main location. This will always be our primary. We may spend a lot of time somewhere else, but this will always be the most. Right, we think things can change, but that is very much how we feel. So, lots of compromises for sure. It's a lot of little things. What do we take with us? What town do we go to? Do we want to be in the country or the city? And we've changed a lot since we got here. So yeah, but I think overall, my kids loved it. We said we're going to move back to Nicaragua. They're like, great, we love Nicaragua. That was it. They're like, good. And initially they were like, great, we'll move to Nicaragua for several years, and when we're 18, 20, we'll move back to the States, right, without you. And it was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. I understand why you'd want to move back to what you know and where your family is. But after 12, 18 months here, both of my kids are like, oh no, this is home. this is our long-term home. We don't ever want to go back to the States. That is not a thing. It's not on their radar at all. They really want to live here. They both are talking about, they're seriously considering moving together. First of all, my kids are very much believing, and I would say that I totally agree that they're likely to do this, that they're likely to live together when they're older. And they have a precedent in the family that their mother and her sister did that for a while, and their cousins, their older cousins who are in their mid-20s, do that now, right? Both of them are like early to mid-20s. They just moved out from home and got a house together and are living someplace just like my kids would, right? And they're almost exactly the same ages to each other. And so we can see this is very likely to happen. I'm an only child, so I didn't have that opportunity. And they're really looking at, they're very interested in moving to Guatemala, or maybe Peru. Those are on their radar, but they want to call Nicaragua home. They're just talking about they want to get an apartment in one of those places, and they want to do some city living, be in a big city. Both of them love big cities. I love big cities. My wife is the one who doesn't. We've lived in New York, Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., Dallas, Houston, almost lived in Austin. I've worked in San Francisco. I grew up on the outskirts of Toronto. I always loved being in Toronto. We've put in a bit of time, Madrid and Rome, and some big cities in Europe. So we're used to big cities, and we like them. Here we don't have that. That's my number one thing about Nicaragua for me, is the lack of major city. And so that's something I miss. And so I can see the kids doing that. They really want a modern apartment in a high rise in the middle of a dense city where they can just walk out and walk to everything. They never want to drive. And they want to be able to just walk and do all kinds of things and have that city experience. So I could totally see them doing that, or a Bogota or a Medellin type thing. They liked Panama City when they were there. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to answer my questions. I plan on visiting this year. This is Hi Cheerio. It'll be awesome to book you for a tour. That would be amazing. I love doing tours. For those who don't know, I don't do it very often, but one of my favorite things is, one, just meeting you guys. That's cool. But when you guys come down and we actually do a tour, that's so much fun. And we've done some where it's we do a 3-day tour, and often Marcela, La Marcelita, from our team comes with us because she gives us a very Nicaraguan view on things, and sometimes there's things that are hard as a gringo who's I'll see people will have questions. Well, what's going on here? And I'll be like, actually, I don't know. I'm not familiar with this. And she's Nicaraguan, and she'll be like, oh, that's this thing, right? She just knows things. Or if you need to go deal with street food, I can obviously go get street food, but I'm also a vegetarian, so there's a ton of this is a taco with meat in it. I don't know, right? I can't tell you anything. And she'll be like, here we go. So doing a 3, 4, 5-day tour, and especially if we can do it without being a nonstop road trip, people tend to be so just some advice. If you want to do tours, not that I'm not willing to do it, but don't do I'm going to base myself out of San Juan del Sur, and then I want to see things in the north. That does not work well. If you want to see Rivas beaches, or you just want to see southern Rivas, and you want to be based in San Juan del Sur, excellent. Great. That's great. But consistently what I get is, okay, we're going to base in San Juan del Sur, and then we'd like to see León. And I'm you do realize that's a whole country away. Driving all the way to the Costa Rican border to get you to drive all the way back means that you're exhausted, you're arriving in the dark, you lose so much time. Stay someplace central, Managua, Granada, León, Matagalpa, depending on what you want to do, and then make a really tight schedule for what is it you want to see. Do you want to see a bunch of places you might be interested in living in? Come up with a schedule, come up with what places make sense, which things might check your boxes, and then let's go spend some time there. Spend a night in each one. You may say, Granada, León, Matagalpa, those. I want a big city, so those kind of give me those things. Let's go do that, right? And I love doing those tours because we get to hang out, we get to go explore food and do touristy things, but also explore neighborhoods, and it's fun. And so, yeah, I would love to do that. Bill says, evening. Hey, Bill, are you currently in town in Messiah? I know you've been posting a lot about the house. I think you're down there right now. When are we doing a Matagalpa road trip? That is a question, Patricia. When are we doing one? Are you coming down for a tour? Are we doing one together? Or are you just wondering when I make it up there to do some filming? I do want to get up there to do some filming. My schedule has been really tight. We had we had some medical things that happened in the last week, and so I've been very, very busy. I've been struggling to get the show out, so I've lost a lot of time. But a mountain right next to an ocean is fantastic. So for those who want a mountain by the ocean, the absolute best is the Sultan Sai, which is a mountain in southeastern Spain. You can see Africa, the Mediterranean, snow, and be high in the mountains, but see the beach all at once. It's about perfect. It's there's nothing in the Americas that quite comes close to that. There's a reason that Spain remains one of the most wonderful places in the world. Do the cousins or other relatives come visit you in Nicaragua? We are at a 0 relatives visiting point. We've had some friends come down, work folks, but from family, we are at absolute 0. My father would absolutely come down. He cannot travel, but even not being able to travel, he's been looking into what he could possibly do to relocate and live in Nicaragua. He really wishes he could be here, but every time he researches it, it's just he can't find a way down. And that's knowing it would be a one-way trip, right? Like he would not have an option of going back. He's very seriously wants to make that journey and retire. I mean, he's retired, but spend out his days here. But he's not able to do that. So he would totally come down, but the rest of the family has not come down. I do have one cousin of mine, my age-ish, that is planning on coming down and just work and stuff make it tough. And then when you're my age, you can lose 3 years without thinking. So we're kind of in that kind of reign. Main reason your kids desire to stay in Nicaragua versus returning to live in the U.S. That's interesting. And just real quick, Bill is in Messiah. Hey, good to see you around. We got to get together and do coffee or something. Like, we chat all the time, but we never get together. I'm also never in Messiah, which I like Messiah. I need to get out there more. I need to film more in Messiah, not just like Central Park, and not the tourist market. My kids' main reason they want to stay in Nicaragua, a number of things. They find the U.S. Scary and stressful, so that's really big. They find like the whole cultural thing now that they've been able to step away from it. And keep in mind, my kids essentially grew up abroad, so it's not like they got to Nicaragua and were like, oh, this is what the world outside the U.S. is like. Not at all. They moved when they were very little, like 1-year-old and 4 years old. We did the grand tour of Europe and spent months in Europe, and then moved around the U.S. a little bit. So they saw a bunch of the U.S. and did a bunch of like that kind of stuff. So they didn't like put down really, really tight roots anywhere until later. And then we moved to Europe. Like we did like this quick moving around in the U.S. And then I was like, we're moving to Europe. And then we spent a little time in Europe, time in Latin America, and then back to Europe for a long time. And then they got a couple years when they were older in the U.S. So they had like, at the time we left the U.S., they were at an age where they had just been there for a while, and they kind of had this feeling of putting down roots in the U.S. They wanted a place that they could feel anchored to, and their cousins were there. And now that they're a little bit older, they've put in that time in Nicaragua and are really close to living outside the U.S. more than they lived inside the U.S. And especially a bunch of the time they lived in the U.S. was when they don't remember, when they're really little. So of the time that they remember, they're at about half in the U.S. and half out. And, now the roots are. Nicaragua is where they know people. Nicaragua is where they understand the restaurants and they understand the food and they understand the culture. And they love how tranquilo it is, right? Even as kids, they're like, everything's so laid back, everything's so chill. You can feel it in the people. My youngest is 12, and she's kind of the leader of the pack, and she's totally like, you can tell it's all so much more relaxed, and the people are just friendlier and more chill, and this is what I want. She doesn't like the ocean, kind of. She wants, a cafe, and she wants to be able to provide American food to Nicaraguans. She's like, this is a thing I can do, right? And they like, for the most part, they like the weather. but it's the feeling of just being relaxed and feeling safe all the time is really big. And it's important to note that they have cousins who have been very close to school shootings. They've had one of their cousins' boyfriends literally had his best friend killed next to him, and he was on TV jumping out of a window as people were shooting at him. Their babysitter's family, the employer of their babysitter when they were young, was in a different city, completely wiped out. The entire family was killed by a mall shooter. So they have really direct connections to people in their social sphere. They know so many people who've lost their families because of mass shootings in the U.S. That they truly feel fear being in or around the U.S. For those reasons, on top of just the general social feeling, even though it is pretty safe in the U.S., right? We can say there's a lot of school shootings. There are. It is a terrible thing for sure. But is the actual number of them creating a homicide rate that creates a overall death rate in the U.S. that matches the worst places in the world? No. It's the overall homicide rate is actually still pretty good. The thing that's terrible in the U.S. is that its innocent children are a huge spike in the small homicide rate, whereas in, say, Guatemala, even though the homicide rate is much higher, it's nearly all gang members. And so when you're like, oh, wait, Guatemala is super dangerous if you're in a gang. That's totally true. But I'm not in a gang. I'm a tourist. How many tourists are killed in Guatemala? Oh, none. No, that doesn't happen. Oh, so when we say Guatemala is safe, no, it's not safe because there's a lot of people in gangs. But when we're talking about is it safe for you, yeah, it's not as safe as Nicaragua, but it's pretty darn safe. ER going to be in Nicaragua for 2 weeks in June. Grenada, Masaya, Leon, and maybe Matagalpa, great places. If you're going to be those places, hit Managua too. Maybe not for very long. It's definitely not the touristy place, but it is interesting. It's a little bit different, and it is the hub of the country. But awesome that you're coming down. James says, yeah, mountain, ocean, Vancouver, walk Stanley Park, sail on the ocean, ski that night. That is cool. Al, Scott, it's cool to make one of these lives. Yeah, we've been chatting, and you haven't been on this yet. We've been in Nika for just over a month now. Wow, time flies. It's not quite true. We've been at the beaches of San Juan del Sur. Oh, yeah, not really Nicaragua. It's the wannabe Costa Rica, as we say. But San Juan del Sur is beautiful. It's just a different thing, right? It's hard to call it Nicaragua. It really feels like you went to Costa Rica. It's pretty much what it feels like. Hope so. We're the only here until the 11th. Oh, okay. So that's 2 weeks. Still working online for the Mother Corp, then building the house as a time hole. I did get my father here for a visit 14 years ago. Nice. My mother was to come down in 2018, but it happened. And after hearing the escape story of my wife and eldest daughter, it's a no. Yeah. Have you ever considered converting your videos to podcast format? I guess I have a question. What do you mean by that? So I used to podcast. So I'm familiar with podcasting. So I was a podcaster. My wife and I were podcasting together. And I'm going to say probably around 2005 or so. We did a bit. We had a show. We did a travel show. Because we were really into travel back then, but we did it about domestic travel. We didn't start our international travel heavily until later. We'd always done some, but we didn't really do it until about 2007. And then we kind of, from 2007, it was like, we're done not traveling. Like, we got to go. Now this is what we do. But my job, I was on Wall Street during that time, and it was our life really, we've always been travelers. We always loved that. And when I ended up on Wall Street, it was like, this is such a career opportunity that we kind of gave up a lot. We compromised a huge amount of things in our lives, which I'm not sure we appreciate now. But it was an amazing experience, and I loved my time, and my job was fantastic, and people say, oh, man, wasn't that just high stress? No, it was fantastic. Like, other than I was stuck in New York, which is not a bad city, it was just, that wasn't what we wanted. It isn't our lifestyle. It was amazing work opportunity, amazing work environment, amazing coworkers. Like, I loved my time there. It was fantastic. But it was 10 years of a truly epic amount of work. yeah, San Juan del Sur is not actually your vibe. Looking forward to exploring the rest of the country for sure. San Juan del Sur is excellent for a few days, right? And if you have the time to come here in Nicaragua and put in a few days going to a few different places, definitely do so. Hit San Juan del Sur. It is unique and it is an important part, less for us in Leon because we're so far away, but if you're in Managua and south, Granada would be included in that. It's so much a part of the range of experiences you can have living in the country. One of the challenges we have, because we're only the size of a large city for the entire country, is that we don't have, it's like you don't go out in Leon and have everything you would want. We have to use the whole country to put together the range of things that you're going to have. And so it's more like San Juan del Sur is a far-flung beach and party district of Nicaragua, of our city. And so if you live in Dallas, sometimes we would have to drive all the way out to Garland to do something, or we'd go way out to Fort Worth to do something, but we didn't consider it leaving. It was just a far part of our place. And that's how San Juan del Sur is. It's one of the farthest places that you would go to, but it's still part of Nicaragua. And so when we have that urge for, I don't know, good sushi on the beach, there aren't too many places that do that. They do down there. You know what? I don't want to have to worry about what day it is. I feel like getting drunk and partying for like 3 days straight, and I'm just gonna dance until I puke on the beach, right? I don't get that desire too often, but if I do, San Juan del Sur is my place, right? And that sounds like I don't want to do that, but a lot of people do, and a lot of people want to do it once in a while. And if you live in Nicaragua, you have this top-ranked all night, all week, 24/7 party place that you can go to, or at least it used to be, and with lots of restaurants. And you can spend a little bit of money, and it feels like a resort area. And if you live in the United States, you have that, right? You've got it. Most states have some amount of that. And even if you don't or you're not near it, you can go to Florida and get that, right? You can go to Orlando and have this, like, it's just a different thing. And or Vegas. You don't have to worry about what time it is. You don't have to worry about what day it is. You got a day off. You get to go party. And San Juan del Sur gives us that. And that's really nice that it does. But in general, it wears you out really quickly. Even if you're not dealing with the pyramid scheme, right? The you're the new expat, you're the fresh blood in the water effect is pretty strong. But even without that, just the time, the music, the energy of a lot of things tends to wear you down in San Juan quite a bit. So I did 2 weeks there in 2019. I had an absolutely fantastic time, and I have to love San Juan for being the thing that triggered me to move down. So it's a little bit, it's important for me from that reason. But now that I've been here and spent more time in the rest of Nicaragua, I'm like, I love Nicaragua so much that I don't need that like transition town anymore. I could convert things to audio only. I guess almost everything I do, you don't need any visual. Only thing I would say is, I know people watch my channel, like truck drivers. I have truck driving viewers, listeners, who just use YouTube audio and listen to it that way and get a podcast from that. I don't know if there's like some way that we can like do a podcast interface to YouTube. The only thing I would say is I don't know how to monetize. I mean, I do, right? But I don't know how to monetize transparently with doing that, and that's what allows us to afford the cameras and stuff. I do know Josie Mar, who was on earlier in the chat, said he had it on just audio for this. He was just listening. Is it that? I wasn't a fan. This is Colin. I wasn't a big fan of San Juan del Sur either. Was there on my way to my first time there and never returned. You know, that's common. I think if you're like, you fall in love with Nicaragua and you like do the thing, you're going to show up and you're probably going to go to San Juan early on and be like, everyone says I got to do this. And then immediately you're going to be like, oh, well, I'm not sad that I did it. But that's either you're going to be like, I don't want to see anything else. This is me. And loads of people do that. So great. But if that isn't you, the chances that you're going to want to go back for a long time is very low. So we've been here for 3 years. I was there in 2019. I've been back to give tours for you guys, and I've come back to give a tour for a buddy of mine came down, and he's like, I really want to see San Juan del Sur because everyone talks about it. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool. And we had a nice time. He paid for a hotel. He got baller hotel. I'm going to look up the name because if you're going to San Juan del Sur, and you need a hotel, you're not like staying for a month, this is the place to go. I can almost think of the name because they're fantastic. Customer service, a little bit pricey, but if you're not a backpacker in San Juan del Sur, this is the place you want to be. It makes it nice. I'm sure by now there's another one or two really nice places down there, but honestly, nice hotels down there are pretty hard to find. Like I'm surprised by that, I guess, is the thing. Like, I know it's true. I've been here for a long time, and I just saw the name go by, and now I can't find it. It is. I'm gonna find it. Anyway, I'll keep talking, and when I find it, I will say something. But almost all of us, the experience that we have is that we go and we do a little bit of time in San Juan del Sur, and then we go, oh, this is not what we want, and then we never return. And then after a few years, the Hotel Alcazar, that is the place. Love that place. They're highly ranked. The rooms are amazing. Staff is amazing. It's probably expensive. I didn't have to pay. But if I was paying, that's where I would go. Like, certainly, they're fantastic. And if you're trying to find them, the place that used to be, or they're in front of, not it is the Eskimo, but they put in the new Pronto. The Pronto on the beach is nearly across the street from them, like diagonal. So go there. That is the place. It's also next to Chica Brava, the surf shop. Like, we never go back. It's always, we end up going back because somebody has a reason they need to be down there. And then we're like, okay, look, we'll go for a night or two. There's always good restaurants there for sure. Like, they're good at that. Like, some of that, like the stuff you expect from touristy zones, it's excellent. So I like when I get time there, but it's so rare and it's enough. I don't need to make any special trips for it. And everyone I know says the same thing. Of course, that's one of the reasons that we live up here. If you did want to go more often, you'd probably live closer. But universally, all the people I know who happily live in Nicaragua end up saying, you know what, I have no need to go more than I have to, right? And everybody has to once in a while. Audio only, wasn't a big fan. ER. This is funny. Someone named ER is asking about medical costs. Suspicious. Your medical cost in the U.S. versus Nicaragua video was telling. Not wanting to be in U.S. for something major is a big concern, and I worry that my 3 young adult kids here in the U.S. worry about my 3. Yes, great informative video. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so you're in the same boat as my dad, except it's only 1 kid and he's old. But my dad worries anytime that we're back in the States. He's like, what if something happens when you're in the States? And we have insurance. Like, we're not without insurance in the States. We would not travel to the U.S. without it. That would be terrifying. But even with insurance in the U.S., our first thought is we got to get out of the U.S. We got to get back to Nicaragua if it's something Nicaragua can handle. And if not, our first choice is Medellin, Colombia, for sure. Unless it's certain types of cancer, you may want to go to Cuba. Like, that's legit. Like, that's a real thing. People in Nicaragua are like, oh, you're so lucky to be in Nicaragua. From Nicaragua, you have the right to go to Cuba. So if there's certain types of cancer that Cuba is the top place for. And if you're coming from the U.S., you're not allowed to go there. But if you're coming from Nicaragua, they'll just put you on a plane. And so you actually have more access to cancer care from Nicaragua, just not in Nicaragua. Not that we don't have cancer care. And I just found out, this is important for those who care. Here in Leon, our hospital situation is abysmal. It is what it is. If you saw it, you'd be like, this looks like something bombed in World War II. You're telling me this is actively the hospital? Yeah, it's that bad. It is terrifying. Like, I've never been inside, but I've been outside a lot. It's right downtown, and it is scary. This is the public hospital. And so there is a reason that we do 100% private here. Now, I have been to Sutiaba Hospital. That's fine, but they have very little. It's like, you're not going to make it to the main hospital, so this is where you're going. Okay, that is its only function. It's mostly a clinic. But if you're going to the real hospitals, we always go to a Moxa here in Leon. Private hospital, excellent, not expensive. They will take care of you. But we have, and they're set to open this year, the largest hospital in Nicaragua. We are told it's the largest hospital in Central America. It is brand new. It looks amazing, and it's in Leon. So, and it has the first major oncology department in the region. I think there's one in Managua, but this may actually be the biggest. And it has the first heart transplant facility in Nicaragua. So we're getting not only the largest hospital, possibly the best of the public hospital system. And so it's like a new flagship is opening, and it's oncology and cardiac care in Leon, and it's nearly done. We can see it. So that's really exciting for us that, we don't mind, you got to go 90 minutes to Managua. I grew up in the countryside. I had to go an hour to get to the hospital in New York, right? So it's not that much different. But that we're going to have a world-class hospital in Leon is amazing. Market on Saturday was pretty intense. We have kids. I jumped around. Hold on. Beer X Kicker. Maybe it's Beer Times Kicker. Maybe it's Beer Kicker with just an X. Anyway, knowing no Spanish, how hard is it going to be for our two-week journey through Leon to Esteli to Bighorn, then undecided finish? Well, your biggest problem is going to be going from Esteli to Bighorn. I have no idea how you're planning on getting there because there's no path from Esteli to Bighorn. Are you aware of this? Have you planned a private plane? Are you taking a bus back to Managua? What is your plan there? Your itinerary looks a little bit scary. Other than that, Leon, you're not going to have a problem in Leon. We're enough of a touristy city that there's English speaking here and there, and honestly, it's Spanish, right? So everyone knows a few words of English. You probably know a few words of Spanish. Nothing is it's not like Chinese where you're like, what are these words, right? You can sound things out. It's not that hard, and they're used to it here in Leon, right? So we're not a touristy area, but there are nonstop tourists, like any normal city, right? If you're in a Seattle, how many tourists from other countries are in Seattle? Not a ton, but enough that you see them all the time, right? So it's like that. You'll be fine in Leon. Definitely, do Duolingo. Every extra 20 minutes you put in, you will notice and feel better, but it doesn't matter. When you head up to, where was the next place you were going? Leon, just Leon to Esteli. Esteli, you're going to be out there, right? But you're on the Pan American, so it's still kind of cosmopolitan a little bit. Big places that you're going, I assume you're going to go to either cigars, chocolate, or coffee, or all three. They'll probably do some things in English. A lot of tours are only in Spanish, so just be aware of that. That can be a thing. I've lived here when I didn't really speak any Spanish, and I never had a problem. You get less out of anything not speaking the language. But so I've lived in Greece, Romania, Ukraine, where I didn't speak the language. Those might be the only places. I've lived in Spain, Nicaragua, Panama, and Italy, but I speak the languages there. So those three, I've lived, not visited for 2 weeks. I've lived in those three countries without speaking the language, and not like, in Ukraine or Greece, I can't sound out the language. I can't read the language, right? Like I can't pull up a guidebook and read what it says. Now I can because I live there, but at the time I couldn't, and it was fine. Right, the number of people who speak English is enough. The pointing, using fingers, someone will show you on a calculator an amount. Know a few words, right? If they show you an amount on a calculator, make sure you know how to say Cordoba, that's the local currency, or dólares for US dollars, right? See, know, point at things, apologize, lo siento, I'm sorry, por favor, please, gracias, thank you, you'll be fine. Buen dia is good day. Right, you'll be fine. Really, tourists can come around Nicaragua without any challenges, but you won't be able to just pull up to the bar, pull up a stool, and have a conversation with any random person. They will not speak English. Al says, we have kids, and I really don't think San Juan del Sur is actually kid-friendly, despite the fact that there are so many here. The first day there, some bars were blasting. Okay, so this is worth noting. San Juan del Sur, I do agree, isn't very kid-friendly. However, be aware, the blasting inappropriate English music is absolutely ubiquitous, and it will not just be bars. The government will play things even less appropriate than that at insane volumes at public gatherings. I don't know if it's because there's just absolutely no social moratorium on that kind of music for kids, which is a thing. Like they really don't worry about that in the same way that we do in the North, or if it's just because it's English and no one realizes what this is, and then no one wants to tell the people who speak Spanish what it is. Do you know what this is? They don't. So there's a ton of really inappropriate English music that you will hear anywhere in the country, any scenario. Like Leon in the middle of family events in the main square at the cathedral, being played from the steps of the cathedral. Absolutely. I've been in the market with my kids, and it's jaw-dropping, the stuff that they will play. Way worse than what you heard. So welcome to Nicaragua. That is a thing here. Market on Saturday was pretty intense. That's most of the markets in the country on a Saturday will be pretty intense. We have Marcadito near here. It's nuts. I do need to film that really soon. It's crazy. You're going to want to use Google Translate. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because you have Google Translate. There's a ton of things. Just have that up on your phone. Make sure you know how to use it. You'll be fine. Sunday Fun Day. I've actually done Sunday Fun Day, and it's fun. If you like any amount of party, for sure, do it. KCS, yeah, Tree Casa. Honestly, I've never been. Everyone says it's great. It's a little bit expensive. It's way outside San Juan del Sur, though. It's not really a San Juan del Sur kind of place. Bill says, we do San Juan del Sur most as a family treat for extended family. We typically stay 2 days, but we chicken bus it for $4 each way. Nice. I've done San Juan del Sur on the shuttle, but never on the chicken bus. But you're way closer, right? The chicken bus from here would be quite a few connections and pretty annoying. Yeah, family treat. I'm there when it's like I got buddies coming in, and they're like, I've never seen this place. And 100% of the time, it has been, oh, we can go now. Right? It's never like, yes, this was so good. It's always like, yeah, that was fine. Well, let's move on to more interesting things, because they immediately go, oh yeah, this is just a tourist trap. There isn't a real thing. We rented a house at Playa Maderas via Airbnb. It's all backpackers in their 20s. Nothing wrong with it. Just not our jam. Yeah, for sure. That's all of that region. Basically, the entirety of beaches in Rivas is going to be investors, often who got burned and are now really bitter. And backpackers and partiers. That region, especially really close to San Juan del Sur, but all of the Rivas coast, is the Central American backpacking circuit. It's the final destination of the main circuit. So it is absolutely packed with backpackers. Like nowhere else is. It has nothing to offset it, right? Its only really big claim to fame is the backpacker circuit. And so the degree to which it has backpackers on a scale that nothing else does is extreme. And so that, again, yeah, you're right. That's not bad. And one of the things I like about Nicaragua is I can, with very little effort, if I feel like hanging out with a bunch of 20-year-olds, go party, drink, dance, talk to people from all over the world. I can at any moment, no problem. In the U.S., I wouldn't know how to do that, right? I'd be like, I could go places and maybe run into people, but it's always a mix. But here, you can be like, I can get to an enclave, I can get to a backpacker place, I can get to a whatever. I know what's going to be there, so you can kind of choose. That's nice. I never choose to do that, but if I feel like it, I can, and it's easy. Yeah, absolutely. But expect that. If you're in Rivas, on the coast, you are there for the backpackers or their equivalent, which is the surfers. That is, there's a ton of surfers down there, but there's a ton of surfers up here. We're the more surfer beaches, but down there it's more the foreigners who came to surf here and went to the tourist spots instead of the serious surf spots. Bill says, sounds just like Lenin Fonseca in Managua. Family tells, never step foot in there. Oh, the hospital. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I've been to some of the ones in Managua. I've been to really good ones in Managua. I've been to pretty rough. Does Amoxa, that is AMOCSA, but yeah, I spelled it that way for a long time too, have English-speaking doctors? Yes, they do. Not 100%, but yes. Whenever we've gone to the ER, the main ER doctor has always been able to work with us in English, no problem at all. Patricia, no need to know how to ask where the bathroom is because you can just pee on the street. Yes, you're finally understanding the benefits of Nicaragua. If you don't know how to find a bathroom, if there's none available, you can pee wherever you need. I'm going to tell a quick story about this. So, and this is about the practicality of it here in Nicaragua because Patricia loves when I talk about people peeing on the street. So I was having to do something at the... Wait. Do they still play the song, is it the Reebok or the Nike? So I saw that on a meme recently. Honestly, I don't know what that song is. I don't know what people are talking about. So I have no idea. Maybe I would hear it and be like, oh, but I honestly have no idea what that is. Oh, Al says I had a good insight. I honestly don't know which thing I said. If you could, what was a good insight? I want to know. Back to so I was dealing with something at the police station in El Viejo, and very small station, one bathroom, not a great bathroom. If you were using it, you would definitely be like, would it be okay if I just go to the street? Like, this isn't great. It was okay. And so while we were there, someone broke it, and they couldn't use the bathroom anymore. And it's a full police station. There's probably 20 cops in there, probably 15 non-cops who are like, filing a report or being questioned or whatever. So there's a fair number of people. And it's like, what is going on? And we're like, where can we get to a bathroom? Because like my wife was like, can we use the bathroom? They're like, no, there isn't one. And so we had several people there, and so we had a car. We're like, just run to the Pronto. So we drove to the Pronto way at the outside of town and came back. It was a lot of driving, but, it gave us an excuse to go get a soda, get a sandwich, whatever. So it wasn't a big deal for us. But for all the cops, they couldn't leave. Lots of people were on foot. They had nowhere to go, and it's not like there's public bathroom facilities. They're expecting the police station to have one if they're stuck there for any amount of time. And so the police are like, they're like, are you people all crazy? Just go outside. Right, and so they actually had a courtyard. So instead of sending people to the street, they sent people to their own courtyard inside the police station. And they're like, go behind a bush, go around the corner or whatever. And that's it. You're just standing around the corner, being and everyone did. It was fine. And what was the other option, right? They can't afford to have a bunch of extra facilities, and one was broken, and they couldn't be like, oh, we have to shut down the police station because we can't provide public restrooms. They couldn't provide private ones either. The police had to go there, right? The other option was send the police all home. That was bad. So that was the very reasonable, very simple option. But in the U.S., if that happened, if you had, for some reason, a plumbing disaster and the bathroom stopped working, you would be forced by law to shut down the police station instantly. Work code violations would require that you not be open and operate it. You'd have to send police from other places. And they're just pee in the grass. So that was, if you ever wonder, is it legal to the point where the police will tell you to do it. Al said, I've tuned in to one or two of the Nicaragua in your 360 concert videos. Where are the main venues for great rock talent in Nicaragua? Who should I be looking out for? Mario Sacasa, he's fantastic. He actually played the beach at a private party the other night that I was not invited to. Everyone I know was there. I did not get an invite. There's a lot of good ones. Larry Emerson, Mario Sacasa. Honestly, I'm terrible at coming up with names. If you're here in town, definitely come see Vieja Grifa and Cadejo, and there's just loads, right? And go on nicaragua.com, and you can see who's playing where on what night. Now, if you're in Leon and Managua, you're going to get a lot of stuff. Some in Esteli. If you're other places, it'll start dropping off, and you won't find as many. But it's there's a lot of stuff going on. San Juan del Sur is kind of out there. You're not going to find a lot of the live events out there. Rivas will start having them. Managua will be packed. So Ron Colas is really good. The Hard Rock closed. Ron Colas kind of took over its spot. Very dive bar-y, but also really good bands, and quite often two locations. They're doing stuff all the time. Azteca, the pyramid place, they do a lot of really good stuff. The Reef in Central America, Plaza Central America, is good. Them or they're associated. They own like 5 bars in one venue. They do good stuff. There's loads. Managua is just full of live music. Leon also full of live music. We're really good. Via is one of the best places here. That's where I film a lot. Bart, the owner, is a friend now. El Padrino has a bit smaller venue. And El Vivero is really good here in town. Antigua is pretty good here in town. Lots of good venues out here. Sua on the beach is really good every Saturday night, Esteli has quite a bit that's good. Med Heavier plays up there all the time. He's from there. Sometimes you can get stuff at the museum here in town. Granada, I really don't know. I feel like it has less live music. It definitely has some that's good, but I feel like it drops off a lot. You probably find a bit good in Messiah. Matagalpa, you'll find a bit. Hinotega, you're going to get a lot less. But, it's interesting. I know quite a few musicians, of course, and even from like here in Leon, sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, we're heading to, and they'll say a name of a place, and I'm like, do you mean the village of 500 people on a mountainside on the Honduran border? Wait, like what? What? And they're like, yeah. And then you look on Instagram, and there's like this huge club and big bands playing there, and they pack the place, and it's just people coming in from the countryside from all over. And you're like, this is wacky. This is such a small little venue, and it's so far out there, and it's so remote. And how does anybody find out about this? And who's going? And the place is packed. And you're like, that looks like so much fun. I want to, sometime when they're going up, I'm going to like drive them, because they take the bus, right? These musicians taking the bus into these far-flung places. I'm like, I will drive out sometime and film, because I want to put some of these places on the map, because it's so cool. If you can find a venue that's out in the middle of nowhere, you will be the only foreigner to go to that. If you go to like Via Via here in town, it'll be like loads of foreigners, probably more Nicaraguans, but a lot of foreigners, and you'll just be like, you'll blend in, no one will notice. You go to an El Vivero, they won't be totally shocked that you're there, but you will probably be the only foreigner or one of just a few. But you'll have a lot of like really affluent Nicaraguans, and they'll be like, yeah, we see foreigners all the time. But you go to one of these places like up in like Nueva Segovia and hit a bar outside of this main city, you're going to be like, you're the only gringo who's been here in 10 years, right? Wild, and it'll be fun. But yeah, thanks for tuning in to Nicaragua and Nicaragua 360. I love doing those channels, and this camera, my excuse to my wife to get this camera, well, mostly because I wrote a book and it paid for it, but it's my present. But it specifically can handle recording the events for Nicaragua, so we can do these long form concerts and really get them. And that's why I have this microphone and a lot of this setup, because I love doing that. And now we're going to be able to do it fast. I'm planning on recording the event this Sunday at Gecko's, which is Ave Mael and Yaromir are playing. And I don't think Ave Mael has made it onto Nicaragüa's channel yet, so I'm looking forward to something very different. And Gecko's just expanded. They're a really cool venue, but normally they do cumbia, so this is gonna be different. What are the odds a big Hollywood producer sees your podcast and moves you to Hollywood? Are we looking at the new Tom Cruise? I mean, yeah, it's a possibility. I've been approached by a few people for doing Hollywood movies, and it just doesn't seem my vibe. We'll see if the right film, if the right script comes along. I don't think that's very likely. But thank you. That's great. My old secretary did movies in Panama. She was a professional actress in Panama and did films. It's pretty cool. Al says, good insight, loud, inappropriate music on the cathedral steps at family events. Yes, that's just something you need to be aware of. Living here, my kids have gotten used to it. Like, we can't hide them from it. So they know it's inappropriate. They just go, do they have to do this? Right? They don't like it either. Bill's taking off. Bye. Yeah, definitely PM me and we'll figure something out. Yeah, no, what I would really like is some American producer from something, probably not Hollywood, to find me and say, you know what, we want to fund an incredibly much higher budget travel show where we're going to pay for you to fly places and do a whole bunch of stuff. And that would be amazing. But much more realistically, my company keeps growing, and the head of the company and I are both super interested in doing a much broader travel show. The head of the company is Valentina, who does the thumbnails on this. So she's involved, and you've seen her on some episodes in 2022 in Guatemala. She has done some travel with me. She and I are very interested in doing more travel and more interesting things, and really hoping we're going to be able to get some really cool content from farther abroad. She's from Mexico. She's moving to Buenos Aires in a couple weeks. So when I go to Mexico, I don't get to see her, which really sucks. But I'm hoping to see her in Buenos Aires as part of my South American stuff that I plan to do this year. For those who are wondering on the timing of the show, I plan on doing the live stream until light number 2 dies. It's the only thing on battery. It probably doesn't have too much left. But this has been going fantastic, so I'm really one, enjoying this. This is fantastic. This is the first that we've had this like smooth. I don't have to like do a bunch of things and have it not work and be like, no, the camera, no, the. I can't believe this. So this is, we did one that was really rough, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And then we did one a couple of hours ago that Gloria was on and she's like, yeah, it's not working. And then this one just worked for whatever reason. But this is the first time with the Fuji, the first time with the Sony, the first time with a few things figured out with the monitor. And this now is set up, it's so easy that I feel like we can just do this. So, and that I'm able to power the Fuji and it's just staying on, and that it looks so good from what I can tell. Like, I'm looking forward to watching the replay, but this seems really, really cool. Hans Jürgen, do you find yourself paying in Cordobas and or credit card as opposed to USD for your day-to-day purchases? Yeah, 100%. I, at one point, went more than a year without touching USD. Not like as a religious thing, it just never came up. Can you use USD here? Yes, you can easily use USD here for many things. Do I ever do that? No. I almost universally don't touch it. When I'm dealing with household or business finances, then there will be times where USD comes up. When I'm in a tourist mode, restaurant mode, normal stuff, traveling around the country, any normal activity that you would do as a non-business person or not as a household manager, I don't touch USD at all. 100% Cordoba and credit cards. For us, we are now at a position in just our lives in general where we do credit cards anytime we can. I did a video on this that very few people watched, but we kind of got down in credit cards and had very, very few for a long time. And then once we started living abroad here and really knew what we needed and knew how we lived, we said, okay, the thing that works best, we're pretty sure, is having a selection of 4. This is my personal thing. Do what works for you. But I'm a big believer in have 4 credit cards, all of them travel cards with no foreign transaction fees. This is for people who live abroad, right? I'm a full-time live abroader. I don't have like a need for an American card because I'm there so much and it'll like do something. I'm there so little, he says, weeks before he goes. But it's the exception, not the rule. So it's so rare for me to be in the U.S. that I don't need any financial instruments built around it. But I do need things built around being in Nicaragua and being generally abroad. So I maintain for me, we use Hilton. We really like Hilton properties when we're outside. Like, we love staying at local places. But when we're going to be staying in a big city or we need to fly in and fly out, like we're in Costa Rica, we're going to use a Hilton. It just makes life easy. So Hilton members, we pay for one of the big Hilton Amex cards, and that gives us an American Express, which is an excellent travel card, lots of protections, and lots of money back, and huge benefits on Hilton, which is saving us a fortune this year. Like, it's so valuable to us. It's paid for itself so many times over, and we're still in January. So that's huge. We have a MasterCard. Mine is the Spirit. And again, I fly enough that I pay for the upgraded Spirit card. For most people, you want the free ones, depending on what you're doing. But evaluate for yourself. So I have the upgraded Spirit card. Again, gives me tons of benefits and loads of miles on the flights that I actually use. The only other airlines that I like to use a lot is LATAM, and they don't have a good card. So that made it simple. I have one hotel card, I have one airline card. One is Amex, one is MasterCard. I then use the Chase Sapphire. I do pay for the upgraded card, but I don't pay the crazy amount for the super upgraded card. Might be worth it. We're right on the line. But the Sapphire Chase card, I highly recommend it. If you're not going to have that, definitely have the Capital One X Ventures or whatever Venture card. Those two are like neck and neck. I prefer the Chase just a tiniest bit more, but they're both great. So have one of those. That one's my Visa, and that's my biggest card. That's my primary card. And then the one I don't have yet is the Discover Miles card. And the Discover Cashback is fine, but the Discover Miles, if you are living abroad, almost certainly works better. And those, all of them give me big benefits and cash back, lots of protections, 0 transaction fees on foreign stuff. So we can use them cheaper than using an ATM, and we get money back. So as someone who lives here, and this is my everyday financing, it actually saves us a noticeable amount of money. So it's very valuable to us. But if you are just doing everyday normal transactions, the Cordoba is the way to go. I carry enough Cordoba with me for whatever, because a lot of times we go places that don't take credit cards. All the time, Sua, one of the best restaurants in town, has not taken credit cards for a year. It's a common thing here. It takes very little to have go wrong with your bank or the tax office, and they will stop your ability to take credit cards, and so you're stuck with cash. So it happens all the time to very innocent companies. It can be just your bank decided you didn't have a big enough account, and suddenly you can't take credit cards. So that can't be what happened to them. They're huge, but so just always be prepared to pay in cash and be happy when you can pay with card. But I only carry Cordoba, and no problem at all. Hey, Christopher House is here, one of our regulars, the first time, I assume, on the live stream. Al says, does your staff do groceries for you guys? How does the workflow function between your family and the kitchen staff? Just thinking through what outsourcing might look like when we settle a bit more. Yeah, for sure. Oh, there goes the light. I can't answer your question. No, I'm just kidding. We do a partial shopping, us and partial them. Living in Leon, not everybody does the amount of food we do, right? So we have a family of 4, plus we have staff who live here, plus we have a whole bunch of staff that pass through because we're an office and a studio, and then my business partner lives here. So we have a large number of people. We're normally feeding 8 to 9 people on any given day in the house. So so a bunch of things become an order of scale for us that aren't for normal people. And so for us, it's very valuable to get the food from PriceSmart in Managua. So you have to have a membership card for that. Someone else can use it most of the time, but technically, and someone's got to get there. So we handle that ourselves. Typically, we drive into Managua, completely load the car. Sometimes we take a truck and completely load the truck, and then come back with unbelievable amounts of food. And because we own restaurants, that doubles with that. So we combine it often with that, and it'll be like half the car is our food, half the car is stuff that the restaurant needs from there, and so that's a volume thing that we're able to do. A lot of people don't bother doing that. Sure, they might be able to save a little bit of money, but the amount of time and effort, not worth it. But PriceSmart, which is Costco, right? It's not, but it might as well be. Has all the Kirkland brand stuff, has a lot of things you can't find other places. So there's unique stuff, and their prices is fantastic, and their supply of some things is good. And sometimes they get like TVs or other things that are really good deals that you can't find other places, or furniture. So you want to use that as part of your stuff. So we normally do that because it's such a big deal, and you got to have a vehicle and the membership. As far as shopping in town, we normally have our staff do market shopping. We almost never do the market. So our chef or one of our staff will, because we have a major domo, right? So the major domo often will do the market shopping. That's fruits, veg, and things like that, small things. And then with the run to the grocery store, we mix it between Mexipali and La Colonia. We typically shop at La Colonia, which is probably foolish. It's a little bit costly, but it's really nice shopping experience. It's nicer than shopping for groceries in the United States. Smaller selection, but really like lightning fast getting through everything. The service is great. So we mix that. We'll often do it. The staff will often do it. It depends. My kids like going to La Colonia, and so once every 2 weeks or so, they'll be like, can we go to La Colonia? And I'll be like, all right, let's go. And so we go as a family, just me and the kids. Stresses my wife out shopping with the kids. But the 3 of us go, and it's like a big thing. And we like to go to the coffee shop together and do that kind of stuff. For a lot of times, one of us will be out running errands in town and going past the grocery store. So we just run in and grab stuff. And often we're in the grocery store because it has a whole bunch of the ATMs that we need to use for one reason or another. Because often here you'll have to use multiple ATMs. You just get you one reason or another, it'll probably come up. So we do a bit. But you can use the staff to do that for sure. And if we're sending people out to Mexipali or the market, we're very likely to send the staff. And if we're going to La Colonia or PriceSmart, we're very likely to do it ourselves. So that's kind of how that works out for us. Workflow with the family and the staff. My kids are not great yet about ordering on their own, but everyone's on a WhatsApp group. So my kids will send me a message and be like, here's what I want for lunch, and then we'll just send it to the kitchen. And then the kitchen makes all the food and delivers it to them. So I can be like, right now, I could literally go on here. I'll go open my WhatsApp, go in, and okay, so this isn't food, but there's some house information that's going on right now. I can do that while I'm making a video, while I'm editing, while I'm on a conference call. I'm on meetings all day long, which is one of the reasons why I like doing this now, because it's one of my few opportunities to do so. Cool, my architect is coming to town tomorrow. That's cool. So I actually had dinner ready an hour ago, and I've been avoiding it to be on the show. We have 16 people on right now. Like, this is crazy. This is awesome that you guys are here and that this is still working. Like, how long has this been going? I can't see the runtime. Oh my gosh, it's 2 hours. This is so cool. And Jorge's here. Hey, can I help you with an Ethiopian passport on arrival? Chachi said, no. So I have a video about this. A lot of people have asked, and I appreciate how hard it is to get a visa from Africa. I have a really good friend who lives in Malawi, and she wants to come visit, and she has no easy way to do that. So quick answers for, especially if you're in Africa with passports. All African countries are expected to get your approval for visa through Cairo. There's one other spot, I believe, in Senegal. Don't quote me that it's Senegal, but Nicaragua has it on the website. That is absolutely forbidden for any person to try to help you with a passport or a visa. It's a flat-out rule. No one is allowed to help you. If someone was allowed to help you, it would be a citizen. It would not be an outsider. I'm an expat. There is absolutely no way that I can even talk to the Ethiopian consulate or the Nicaraguan consulate for you. Those are absolutely not allowed. We have had people who have paid us to go to Costa Rican and Nicaraguan embassies to try to get them information. And you're not allowed to talk to the embassy for someone else. So there's nothing we can do to help except tell you that, especially if you're in Ethiopia, right? Cairo, I realize, is very far away, but it is way closer than Senegal. You are forced to go to Cairo and apply in person for a visa to Nicaragua. My understanding is that in doing so, it is very easy, especially as an Ethiopian. You should have no problem getting a tourist visa to Nicaragua. But it is a very hard process, and that is just unfortunate because there's huge sections of the world that really want to come visit Nicaragua, but Nicaragua cannot handle having embassies throughout Africa. They just do not have the resources to do it, and so it's a huge limiting factor that can't be avoided. So unfortunately, Nicaragua is, for all intents and purposes, off limits as a travel destination. If you're coming from Africa, if you're coming from Egypt, it's not so bad. If you are doing travel and Nicaragua is not your goal or doesn't need to be your goal, and you're able to come to Costa Rica, or you're able to come to Guatemala, or you're able to come to Mexico, or you're able to come to Colombia, right? Any of those places, you can be in those places and go see the Nicaraguan consulate there. You do not have to see the one in Cairo, to the best of my knowledge. Unfortunately, I cannot check this for you. They will not let me. But to the best of my knowledge, they will not allow, or they will allow you to use any embassy that you can get to, but you have to talk to a Nicaraguan embassy. Then anywhere in the region will have Nicaraguan embassies because they have tight relations with Mexico and Guatemala and Costa Rica and probably Panama, Colombia, places like that are much easier for you to get to. And then you should be able to get approval from there. And especially if you're in those countries, I think it'll make it much easier. Al says, same here, either in meetings, writing, or teaching all day long. Being able to outsource is not really going to be an option. Outsourcing can be tough. Ed, hey, good to see you're here. I'm going to jump real quickly to Beer X Kicker. Thanks for coming to February 9th. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. That's awesome. Since you have beer in your name, I'm just going to plug this really quickly for the 18 people who are on. Oh, my gosh. For those of you who are on, and for anyone who's going to be here, you're coming February 9th, which means, so I'm not into football, sorry, but the Super Bowl is February 11th. I just happen to know because some of you asked me. And there is a Super Bowl party at Desperados in Las Piñitas on the beach. So you can watch the football game sitting at the bar on the sand on the Pacific Ocean. Does it get any better? I don't think so. And you can get like amazing steaks and brisket and salmon. And not only, this is to the best of my knowledge, is it the only place with draft beer on the Nicaraguan coast, not a portion of the coast. I actually don't know of a single place with draft beer on the entirety of the Nicaraguan coast, except for Desperados. And it is also, to the best of my knowledge, the largest number of taps without going to the brewery itself for any beer anywhere in the country. That's probably not true, but it is, to the best of my knowledge, true. It has 9 taps of beer. I know that there are 12 at Cerro Negro, but they are a brewery. It is only 12 and only at the brewery. I don't know anywhere that has Cerro Negro on tap except the brewery. But Desperados has 9 beers on tap, all Moro Potente, plus they have the regular stuff in bottles, on the beach, Super Bowl. So now you know. Ed from Queens, I live in San Juan del Sur, and your videos are right on point. Wow. What made you choose San Juan del Sur? Don't get me wrong. There's lots of great things about San Juan del Sur. Definitely, for a long time, we thought that's where we were going to be. So Chachi says, help me with invite. No, absolutely. There's no chance that an American can provide you an invite to Nicaragua. There's no person on earth less able to issue you an invite to Nicaragua than an American. Like, that is, you. So first of all, invites are not relevant to the process of coming to Nicaragua. They don't use the invite process. If there was an invite process, it would have to be a Nicaraguan. And of all the places that Nicaragua doesn't get along with, America is the number one place that they don't like, right? Now, individually, Americans, they love, right? It's an incredibly welcoming country. But as a national, if they're looking at my passport and saying, who would we let invite someone to the country? They would look at my passport and go, definitely not this guy, right? So, but they're not going to let any foreigner make an invite because I'm just a random non-Nicaraguan. You could invite yourself as easily as I could invite you. So if you can't invite yourself, I can't invite you, right? That's just how it works. There is no exception to the you have to go to the embassy with Nicaragua and talk to them. If the embassy provides you approval and then says you need an invite from a Nicaraguan, then you have to find a Nicaraguan to give you an invite. I don't believe that is the process. I've never heard of that being a process. I know of nothing of the sort. But it would have to be a Nicaraguan, not an American. Because I could be in Belarus with you. Why wouldn't you just invite yourself at that point? Larry says, you answered the Super Bowl question the other day. I plan on going. Yes, I saw that, Larry. That's awesome. Multiple people are planning on going. I'm hoping to be there. I don't know that I can be, but I'm going to try to be, mostly because I like beer. And I want to see the place packed. That would be really cool. It's 2 floors, but you might be able to see from the second floor. That's going to be tough. There's only 2 TVs, but there's only like 2 places anywhere with TVs. It's hard to watch the Super Bowl down here if you don't have a setup at home. Patricia says, speaking of American football, were you upset Taylor Swift's Era Tour didn't stop in Nicaragua? Well, so it did, sort of, because they did the live stream to the movie theaters here. Because she's very popular here. So I have lots of Nicaraguan fans. I have lots of Nicaraguan friends of mine who are fans of hers who went and did the big event for her Eras Tour. It's Eras Tour. It's not the same as seeing it in person, but it's way cheaper and more convenient. So it's kind of like she was here. What made me choose San Juan del Sur? This is Al. I was asking Ed, because yours is there temporarily, but he lives there. There's an allure there. If looking online for entrepreneurial families, they do a great job of marketing to us. Yes, they do. Ed, COVID closed my business in Manhattan and found a YouTuber who had a channel and visited him. Oh, interesting. And then you just stayed. I take it. How long have you been there? Chachi, Ethiopian passport on arrival visa. So what shall I do? Nicaraguan embassy in Belarus now open. If you have passport on arrival, no, I think you're saying on arrival visa. If you have on arrival visa, you just come. I don't think Ethiopia has an on arrival visa with Nicaragua though, but I could be wrong. If there's a Nicaragua embassy in Belarus, you can just go there. That's amazing. I didn't know we had one there. We had one. Do I get to say that? That's really cool. I have friends here who moved here from Belarus. They're not Belarusian, but they moved here from there. But I don't think they needed a passport thing. I don't know if they can say anything about it, but that's super cool. I'm not completely surprised. There are friendly relations between Nicaragua and Belarus, but both countries are so small. I'm shocked. But new, very cool. It's good to know that there is expansion going on. There's always shifting alignments and moving of embassies and stuff. And Nicaragua is so interesting, like figuring out where we can go, what we can do. It adds new challenges, but it also offers so much opportunity that it's part of the landscape of fun in a lot of these things. So I can't believe that this live stream is well over 2 hours and we haven't glitched out yet. Like, that is amazing. That this camera's been run. This is the longest I've run this camera, I'm pretty sure. Because, I mean, obviously I haven't stopped it, right? It's just going. And it hasn't overheated. It's got the fan on, but that's about it. So I'm gonna see what happens here. Oh yeah, that's different. I don't know. That was not cool. I did not like that transition. Is there a better one? It's that was kind of lame. Not the best transitions. I think it's better if you just cut back and forth. So that's the Sony. That's the Fuji. You can do the. We'll zoom in. Oh, which way is it? There we go. Yeah. Anyway, if you don't ask questions, you start getting weird camera games. Hey, Scott, this is John Blair. Hey, John. Hi, Scott. Just curious, was Esteli ever considered in your living destinations? Thanks. No, it was not. And it's not that I don't like Esteli. It's more that I absolutely love Matagalpa. However, we never had to evaluate those things. My wife's ruling on moving to any country was... Patricia. We had to be on a beach. And Leon is the only city with a beach. Now, she was okay not being near a city. Now she would say that was not okay, right? Having lived on the beach and now living in the city, we all love being in the city but having the beach just minutes away. I can be in the beach in 12 minutes. I'm turned around that way. But it's... living on the beach is very different than living in Nicaragua, and we really like living in Nicaragua, and being deep in the culture and being in the Barrio, and the beach is just a totally different vibe, and some people love it. Some Nicaraguans love it, some expats love it, but for us, I'm not the biggest beach person. I like cold North Atlantic beaches if I'm going to be on the water, but she likes the beach, she loves the waves, she loves all that. But she wants to come home. She wants to get away from it. She wants it to be a thing she can do often and easily, but not every day. So the mountains, unfortunately, are too far away. I would prefer Matagalpa. I love it up there. And Esteli is great, too. I prefer Matagalpa. It's a little bit higher. I like that the city is actually in the mountains, not just on a mountain. Esteli's high, but you don't feel like you're in mountains. It feels like you're just up. Whereas Matagalpa, you're like, oh, there's the hillside, and some of the houses go up it. Like, it's pretty crazy. So, it's always been... the place that I would prefer, but it is not. It just doesn't make the list for her. So for me, for Esteli though, Esteli is more expensive than many of the other cities. So that's a negative, and I don't find the city to have as many things for me. Some people just love it. Like, everybody has a different vibe. Esteli has more like sports bars. It has more sports. Like, they have the big arena, the big, I know what they're called, stadium, and they have the big soccer team for the country. So there's a lot of things to easily really like about Esteli. They have a good music scene and all that. But Matagalpa has more bars, more nightclubs, more restaurants, and much more interesting landscape. And it has a larger zone around it of like support villages or villages that it supports, as well as a really absolutely gorgeous, amazing highway through the mountains that connects it to Jinotega. And so they're like twin cities. They're like close enough to each other that they're connected by this umbilical cord through the mountains, which is one of the most beautiful drives on earth. And that drive is odd because you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. You're on mountainsides in a cloud forest. You're just out there. And yet, every few minutes, you go past a big restaurant or something along the way. And so you're constantly like, I kind of want to check this place out. I kind of want to check that place out. If you watch my episode with Camille, when we went up to Jinotega, I'm not sure if it's in the Jinotega episode or the follow-up episode. I think it's actually in the second half because we recorded 2 episodes that day. It's our most successful filming day of all time. Not just how much we recorded, but the number of views. I think we got something like 20-some thousand views on that one day of filming. And she and I went and did that drive. And as we were going, we're just like, every restaurant, we're like, we want to stop there. This is amazing. And so it's such a cool drive, like just living up there for that and having Jinotega so close. So you end up, once you consider all that kind of one metro area, yeah, you got to drive a bit between them. But the overall Jinotega Matagalpa combined metro is like 2 to 3 times the size of León. And so the amount you can do up there, it feels more urban, but the weather's so much cooler, and you're farther off the path. It's just, I love it. It's really cool. Esli, yeah, I can't believe the power grid did not go down yet. No, actually, that's really amazing. Normally we have a blip. I guess it's not really every day. It feels more often than it is, but it feels like you have a blip every day. Once or twice a week, we just lose it for 3 to 20 seconds, right? About 5 seconds is the norm. And my light is not on battery backup. And so the light would disappear. So I would just go dark, but you would hear my voice because all of the broadcast equipment is on full battery backup and on fiber. So the only thing that would go dark is that there wouldn't be a light. And since the other light's battery died, I would truly be in the dark. You would just be the glow of you'd see a faint outline of me. But that would be it. But that would be funny if it actually did that. Ed says, I've been all over the world. The Nika people are the best. They pay little attention to us gringos. It's true. What do you love about Matagalpa? Well, I definitely just said some of it, but so I really like hilly terrain for urban living, and I really like urban living. And Matagalpa is, in my opinion, the most urbane spot in Nicaragua. It is the closest thing to city living that you can get. Managua is definitely a much larger city, but it does not feel like it. It feels like a collection of villages that ran into each other and didn't know where to go. And I mean that. You drive through Managua, you spend time in Managua, and you're going to be like, I see what he means. There's no city here. It's just a whole lot of barrios. And that's fine. And there's cool things about Managua for sure. I love Managua. Like, if I had to live in Managua, I'd be perfectly happy. But, and most people are like, what? I would be fine in Ciudad Sandino. No problem at all. Like, for real. Does not bother me. No problem. And it's beautiful. And I love some of the new bars that are going in. I love the new pizza shop. I love the new shopping plazas. There's so much going on in Ciudad Sandino. And it's so off the radar for expats. It's fantastic. It's so often listed as the most dangerous city in the country that people are like, I don't even want to drive through it. And I'm like, whatever, I'm walking around. I love this place. Whatever. Real quick, I have to mention. So someone posted on our discussions. I said something about Managua, and they're like, yeah, Managua is so much safer than people give it credit for, but I would never walk around San Judas. And so I looked up where San Judas is, and of course I know the area, but I've never been in it. Like, I've driven along the side, but I've never gone into it. I certainly have not walked around it. And I was sitting, it was about a week after someone had said it, I was sitting with Marcella, who has been to every rough neighborhood in Managua and rolls her eyes and hates that I go walking there. But I'm talking to her, and I'm like, okay, I want to go film San Judas because people were complaining about it. I also want to film Barrio Venezuela for the same reason. But I'm in Barrio Venezuela all the time, so I have a very good feel for it. So I'll be like, we're in Venezuela, right? And she'll be like, yes. I'll be like, and she's like, yeah, it's fine. but San Judas, someone mentioned as being like the one place they were scared of. So I'm sitting there talking about it, and one of the people who was sitting, we're just having beers outside, and the guy looks over and goes, well, did you say San Judas? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, any place named Judas sounds dangerous. Yes, Jay, it does. That is absolutely true. What's really funny is they call the place St. John. They refer to it in English by an improper translation of the name. Kid you not. But so he's like, you said San Judas? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I grew up in San Judas. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, my parents still live there. I don't live there now because he's older. He moved away. He lives in another part of Managua. But I'm like, that's amazing. Can you give me a tour? He's like, yeah. Why would someone want to see San Judas? I'm like, people thought it was scary. He's like, it's not scary. What are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. That's what people say. And like, I just got my car windows washed there the other day, but on the edge. He's like, yeah, we can totally go walk around. He's like, it's got one of the biggest party districts in the city. It's got the secondary red zone. The Zona Rosa is in San Judas. And he's like, yeah, we can go. We can hit lots of bars and stuff. And I'm like, he did make it to sainthood. Yes. All of the apostles and disciples are saints. Oddly, right? Yeah, so I have a plan to go to San Judas and brave the bar district and show you guys what it's like and he said he can get us invites into houses and go see people and like really go see San Judas, not just walk down the street, which would be fantastic. So we're gonna do that, and I know that his job will let him because we hired him this morning. So that'll be perfect. Power grid all over the world, gringos. Matagalpa, I was still talking about that. So it's just got so much stuff. It's really low cost of living. It's noticeably cheaper than Leon, which is not who cares, right? Oh gosh, it's 3% cheaper consistently. But when you go to get an apartment, as Scott Moore found out, because his first apartment I found for him, he was like, what? This is so cheap for a nice modern place. And he actually got a place that someone had found for me years ago and is still available. And right downtown, right in the middle of things. And it's fantastic, right? And my long-term goal is to get an apartment in Matagalpa, where I'm not there yet, but it's on my list. I'll tell you guys about that in a minute if I don't forget. See, you want to see San Judas, right? This will be cool. Like, honestly, this will be fun. Like, I'm going to do Judas, I'm going to do Venezuela, which scares everyone, and I'm going to do the one that people don't know is Villa Libertad. These are like as rough gets in Nicaragua. So I just want to walk them. I'm going to go down the streets, show you the shopping, do the stuff, and like way more interesting, I think, than our normal Barrio walks. Because everyone will be staring at me like I'm a crazy person. But so the lower cost of living, so much nightlife. I think there's actually more restaurants than Leon. It's cooler climate. So that's such a big deal. The cloud forest, the cool rain. It's not a chilling rain, but a nice cool rain. Matagalpa calls to me. It feels so good when I'm there. And I love the look of the houses. Leon and Granada are colonial cities, and Managua is a recovered from an earthquake city. So none of them are what I consider beautiful in the way I would want a city to be. They're beautiful because they're antique, the two of them. And Managua is just this weird village thing. But like Ciudad Sandino, I find attractive when you're not driving by the open sewers. Like, okay, I will admit there are rough parts that may not be that attractive. But the housing developments in Ciudad Sandino are gorgeous, like very affordable. People paying far under $300 a month, like in the $200 to $250 a month range for mortgages out there. Beautiful places, right? Places that I would be proud to have as my own. Not big, very small, very, very cozy. I've shown them, but gated communities, right? $250 in a gated community that you can walk to basically all the shopping that you could need to do. Butchers, grocery stores, 24-hour convenience stores, plazas, hair salons, all that stuff, walking distance, pizza shops, burger joints, fritangas with live music, you name it, you can get to it. Dirt cheap in Ciudad Sandino in lovely little communities. Love it. But in Matagalpa, it's cheaper and there's just so much more of all that stuff. It feels so much more urban. It feels like a big city. And the coffee culture. I am a cafe person. I have one cafe that I really like here in Leon, which is luckily Dr. Coffee, and it's in Sutiaba. So it's a Barrio place way off the beaten path. And that's actually all of our favorite coffee place. So that's amazing that it's right there. But the chances of that are low. There's a few coffee places in town, and they're okay. It's not that I won't go there, but none of them are like, oh, I love going to this cafe. I got to make a special trip. My kids never want to make a special trip unless it's to discover a new place. So a new cafe just opened up. There's 2 new cafes. They want to check them out, and we will do that. Hey, Solo Journeyer, 2 hours in, and you're just getting here. We waited for you. Like we're doing it. Welcome to the broadcast. The whole coffee culture in Matagalpa though is just amazing shop after amazing shop after amazing shop, and it gives you that feeling of like amazing European or North American coffee culture where it's like fancy and lots of options, and they really do it up, and it's just everything's amazing. But down here in Leon, it's like, yeah, Dr. Coffee's great, and they have like everything is on really small scale. But up there, it's like big places. People, it's just packed with people. We go to the coffee shop here, we're often alone. But when we go up there, late at night, they're full. Early in the morning, they're full. You're in the middle of the town, and you have to pick which amazing one to go to. And as you drive out of town, there's like big coffee houses. As you drive it, I love it. It's such a great thing. You miss seeing Matagalpa on There's Got to Be Something More's channel, but now he's in Shela. Yeah, it does look amazing. So I have not been to Shela. That is one of the top cities that I've wanted to go to for a long time. I was up there nearby with Valentina and Yvonne back in 2022, and the schedule just did not allow us to go up to Quetzaltenango or Shela. But we were pretty close, and Guatemala is amazing. It is my second pick country at this point of all the places I've been that I would realistically, if you can hear that in the background, that's my dog being a freak show. She, when she wakes up, she has to flap her ears around and get everyone's attention. Come here. See if I can get her on the show. Come here, baby. She's been here this whole time. I'm in my closed office. Come here. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to pick you up. Yes. Oh, here she is. This is Mia. Yeah. Oh. And she's been asleep, and she just realized that I'm online. Yeah. Oh, you're the good girl. You're the good girl. Okay, I gotta put you down. Yeah. Oh, you're too big. Yeah. Okay. Yes, the coffee shop in San Juan del Sur is the AM PM. That's not entirely true. I know a nice coffee shop that I like down there, but the AM PM is kind of the vibe. Actually, last time I was there, the hot new coffee shop was the Pronto. So they've moved on from the AM PM to the Pronto. No, you're probably more up to date than me. Oh my gosh, that was probably 2022, when the Pronto opened. I still feel like it's new. Guatemala is amazing. I love Guatemala. I would if I didn't get to live in Nicaragua, I would be perfectly happy in Guatemala. I mean, I'm very happy almost anywhere, and I love exploring. And I'm really looking forward with our residency being really easily able to get to Honduras and El Salvador and explore those places too, because they've got so much to offer and they're so nearby. And I really want to show you guys like how easy it is to get to that stuff. Oh, thank you. The dogs that are in the background. Yeah, they add a lot of interest to the show for sure. It's something. I can't believe we have 17 people still on. This is crazy. Who would have thought that Friday night live stream was the thing to do? And really, I'm just testing out because we got to do a wedding on the 2nd. Obviously, I'm not live streaming it on this channel, but this equipment is going to be live streaming Alan and Anna's wedding. Alan, both of them have been on the show a number of times. And hold on, Alan just messaged me. No, I'm talking about you on the live stream right now. I've been on. So Alan, what I'm talking about that I'm doing this for is asking if I'm going out to Via tonight to film, and I'm just not feeling it. Like, this has been fantastic. I'm so glad we did this, but I'm now he's asking. I need to send him a voice message. Let's watch this. This will be different, right? 18 people, yay! So I'm gonna do a voice message to him. So I'm making you a voice message live on camera with the microphones rolling, so everyone is live hearing the message that I'm recording for you, which is funny because they'll hear it before you do. But I'm doing the live stream tonight because I wanted to test out all the new gear to make sure that it'll work for your live stream in a week. And we haven't had a chance to actually sit down and test it and really do it. So the live stream has been going for, at this point, we're just coming up on 2.5 hours and had no glitches at all. It's been absolutely fantastic. We tried earlier and had some networking issues for, I don't know, but we only did it for like a few minutes. Got the lights set up, did it again, and it's been just rolling with nothing. Like YouTube isn't complaining about anything. Everyone says the audio works, and so your wedding looks like we are all set for successful live streaming. Fingers crossed. Knock on proverbial wood. Ooh, I couldn't. I had a headset on. So everyone heard that, and you're live on the air. Now I need to be able to set it up to take callers. I don't have the equipment for that. I need a piece of road gear for those who are watching. That would be really cool to add into all this. I want to make this a regular thing. Like I want to do this like weekly or something. Let me know what you guys think. But I think this is fantastic. All right. So I sent that to Alan, and it's one of the things I love here is everybody just, we have a WhatsApp group, and it's like, where's everybody going tonight? And everybody picks a band, picks a venue, and what time we go and get a table, and we'll call the venue, they'll reserve us a table, and we'll just go and hang out, and we have such a big group. It's so social here. Both the people are social, and the whole like climate, like both weather and the just the way people live, the culture, makes things so social. The combination of things, of course, your mileage can vary. You can have a different experience. But so often people come here and it becomes this giant social thing that you're just always with people doing amazing thing. Solo Journeyer says, is the best place to visit in Nicaragua for the first time their capital, Managua? Simple answer, no, not at all. So it's important to preface this answer. I love Managua. I go there all the time. It is a very nice city that gets no credit. And I'm equally shocked by the people who absolutely avoid it and the people who often move there without going other places first. Because to me, Managua has always been known as a place that you avoid. And so the people who avoid the rest of Nicaragua and only go there, I'm always like, what drove you to that? Right? Like, what were you thinking? That you didn't check out all the places that people recommend first. I mean, kudos for taking the path less traveled, but what? But Managua is, for all intents and purposes, an impossible to visit city. That's maybe its biggest problem. It is so hard as a tourist to see Managua that it ends up getting a terrible rap for being unapproachable. And the reason is, we did talk about this on the show a few times, is that it is a sprawl of villages and not a single unified city. It has no history because it was liquefied literally in 1972. It was razed completely. And that was Alan just popping on. He got the message and so just made it onto the live stream. That's Alan is CCW Tech there. That's awesome. But so Managua is, it's not a beautiful city. It's beautiful in that it has beautiful mountains around it and it has beautiful trees everywhere and it has a few really beautiful structures. But by and large, you have small houses, small neighborhoods, things that are perfectly fine, but they're not exciting. They're not things that a tourist would go see, right? Or maybe for 5 minutes. But what are you going to do? Go, wow, there's a block of Nicaraguan houses. And then you go to the next block and go, and there's another block of Nicaraguan houses. And they're all the same, just one block after another for miles upon miles upon miles. You're going to be like, okay. So Managua lacks much to go see. And if you are going to go see things, you pretty much need a guide, right? Are there museums? Yes. Where are they? I don't know. I know where one is. And it's only going to take you 30 minutes. Like, it's not a big thing. Are there cool government buildings to see? Absolutely. The National Mall is beautiful. Cool. So I can go there. What can I do? You can walk down the street and see the National Mall. Well, is there, like, restaurants and stuff? Not really. Like, if you have a car, you could get to, like, is it easy to drive? It's okay. I wouldn't do it for fun. Is there, like, an area where you can stay and be, like, close to everything? No. Like, it's all really hard. So when we go to Managua, so he says, so politely, the city is so chaotic and disorganized. I don't know if chaotic and disorganized is quite how I'd put it, but that's legit. It's more that it is non-centralized. It's that everything is organized in little villages, and those villages have cool little centers, but you might as well go visit any village anywhere. So take, for example, Los Robles, which is a beautiful part of the city that I love a lot, and I've shown it before. Los Robles is full of really amazing restaurants, really great nightlife, a couple decent hotels. You can get to some important parts of the city with shopping from there, and if you know what you're doing, you can like branch out a little bit. But essentially, you're in this very enclosed little space, and then you're going to hit the highway and a bunch of empty area, and it's like, oh, okay, where's the next thing? Well, really, you want to take a taxi to the next thing. You're not next to anything anymore. Oh, okay. And then, well, I want to go to Santo Domingo. Okay, so if you're in Santo Domingo, it's full of nice restaurants, really cool housing. You notice Los Robles has very little cool housing. Some, but very few. But Santo Domingo is full of it. And it's got the mall. Well, is the mall cool? Yeah, honestly, it's a nice mall, right? Great restaurants, some decent shopping, bookstore, cafes, even in the mall, there's a cafe. Beautiful areas to explore. Like there's things like that, but you end up in these little pockets because it's a collection of communities that have grown into each other rather than a central city with a downtown. And so it's just completely different. Whereas Granada and Leon, or Matagalpa or Esteli, they have a downtown. They have a center that you can stay in and walk to the things. And as you get to the outskirts, of course, there's a Barrio bar that's fun. There's a little something somewhere that's interesting. But in general, you have extremely little that you really want to go see. Or if you are going to see something in the outskirts of a city, and this is true in the U.S. or anywhere, right? It's going to be like, okay, I want to go out from the city center, and I'll just pick a random direction, and I just want to see what a suburban neighborhood looks like. And you'd be like, that's neat. Okay, I saw that one thing, I'm done. Like it's your little venture into that. And if you're in Leon, you would do that, right? Or you might venture out here to Sutiava and check out Dr. Coffee. I want to see what Scott's favorite coffee place in the Barrio is like. Great, you'll go do that, and then you'll be like, okay, I can go back to the center now where all the attractions are. Managua completely lacks that. And so it just creates this, if you know Managua, it's reasonably organized, and you can do a lot of things, and if you know how to get around, but it has so many challenges and so little to make you happy. And Ed's right, the Intercontinental Hotel at the Metro Center is nice. That's really close to Los Robles. It's not in, but it's nearby. I mentioned earlier on the show, I use the Hilton. So I stay at the Hilton Princesa there, which is, they can see each other, the Hilton, the Intercontinental. However, I have discovered, as has Alan, that the DoubleTree by Hilton is normally about $5 cheaper. Remember, everything's cheap here. And newer. And overall, it's nicer. Nicer pool, nicer location for most things. You can't walk to as much stuff, but most people won't walk Managua. I will, no problem. But most people won't. So the DoubleTree, once you're taking a taxi or getting in a car, it's easier to park at the DoubleTree. Everything's nicer and newer. I prefer the DoubleTree. That's where we stay when we can. If they're full, we stay at the Princesa. There's also the Hyatt is right there. They're pretty pricey. So it's this nice area, right? And then you've got the Metro Centro, which is the mall, right? And you can go shopping, and they've got restaurants. There's a Burger King there if you need it. And you can get to places like Los Robles really easily. And you can see all this on my episodes where I walked Managua. That's on the Carretera Messiah, and that goes past those places. So you can see what we're talking about on those episodes. And the Intercontinental blows the Hilton away. I think it blows it away in price too. Double check, but we often pay less than $100 at the Hilton. And for those who are wondering, even less than $100 is really expensive for Nicaragua. The most expensive Nicaraguan hotel that I have stayed in yet was $111. That was baller. That was in Chinandega, the most expensive city in the country, and it was so nice. That's Los Portales in Chinandega, right on the north, right as you come in to Chinandega. Oh, my dog wants out. I'm going to see because Marcelita wants to come in and grab something. And I had to speak in Spanish for a minute. What did I miss? Long-time listener, best place to visit in Nicaragua for the first time. So what is the answer to the best places to visit? So honestly, do not come to Nicaragua without visiting Granada. It's a tourist center, but you gotta see it. If you haven't seen Granada, you haven't seen Nicaragua. It's got great history. You only need to put in 2 to 3 days. 3, I'd recommend. I used to live there. It's a wonderful city. I just wouldn't want to live there myself. But it is a great city with a load of restaurants. It is definitely easy for newcomers. It's easy to find a hotel. It's easy to deal with English there. There's things to do, loads of museums. Some of them are kind of touristy, but whatever, it's still fun. There's a lot to see on the lake. There's the lake. If you're like, I only got one chance to see the lake, that's going to be it. Marcella is popping in. I think she wants to come say hi on the show and say... She is just heading out to meet Alan at Via Via. See?
Yep.
See?
Via Via.
To our en vivo. Es en vivo hace 2 horas y media.
Wow.
Sí. Y muchas personas. Alan está en línea. So can a Nika resident... one thing I don't like is, I can't read the last thing that you guys write. As soon as someone else writes something, I can read the thing that was just there. So Ed from Queens just wrote, can a Nika resident something? But I can only read the thing he said before that, which is the intercontinental... now I can read it because Patricia said something. Can a Nika resident price 109 plus tax? Can get a Nika resident price for 109? Oh, well, that's nice to know that there's that's a little bit more, but that's only a tiny bit more than we pay typically. Now, I do get tons of points at the Hilton. That's the big deal for me, because I'm a gold member. But anyway, so Granada you have to go to, and I suggest like 3 days. Do restaurants, do the tours on the lake. If you like hiking, do the volcano hike. While you're in the area, do for sure. Thanks. Do Laguna de Apoyo. Actually, go stay there. Don't do it as a day trip. And so if you're on a tight itinerary, if you have loads of time, you can do lots of extra stuff. But do Granada. As you're leaving Granada, do Laguna de Apoyo. One night, stay at Hostel Paradiso. Is that right? Paraiso. No, I can't think. I'm not sure which it is. It's easy to find. I'll try to find it for you guys. It's in all my videos of Laguna de Apoyo. It's cheap, comfy. They do a great job. Great restaurant. You're on the water. You don't need to go do stuff in the area. Just stay at the hostel. Trust me, Volcanic Lake, it's mind-blowing. There's a restaurant up there. Unfortunately, he's off the chat now, but Josie Marr was here at the beginning of the chat. He took me up to a place. It's got the name Train in it. It's like, I'm going to try to find it while we're talking. This is super foolish. But there is a restaurant up there with Train in its name, or I think it does, and it has some of the best views, and the food is Nika, but Nika fantastic, right? Like some of the best Nicaraguan quality food with the best views that you can possibly imagine. And yeah, if I can think of the name, I'll let you know. But it's definitely up there on the ridge somewhere. But in general, stay at Paradiso, Nicaragua, Laguna de Apoyo. That is its name. And if they're full, Casa Marimba is fantastic as well. I'm sure there's other nice ones. Those two consistently everyone loves. I will, Al, give me a minute. And so you do one night in Laguna de Apoyo. There's not a lot to do, but it's one of the most beautiful places on earth, like literally. So you have to do the sunrise. Get up early and watch the sunrise. Stay up late, hang out. There's a lot of backpackers there, but it's also just so chill. It is not a party place. Then as you're leaving Laguna de Apoyo, you definitely want to do, if possible, the volcano at Masaya. Technically, the volcano is in Managua, but you like get to it from the Masaya Road. If you're bored as you drive by, the dinosaur park in Nindiri is so cute. Give it 20 minutes. buy some snack from the local vendors, to walk to the park and take pictures. Like, it's adorable. They're in Nindiri. Wave to Bill, who dropped off the chat as you go by. He lives in Messiah. And Josie Marr, who's on there at the beginning, lives in Granada. And all of us go to Laguna de Apoyo on a regular basis because it's one of those things. Like, once you know that it's there, you have to go. Like, it's so beautiful, it's so special, and it's amazing because so many people visit here, so many people live here, and are like, oh, I've never been. And then once you go there, you like join this exclusive club of people who know how good it is, and then you just make it part of your life routine to go there on a regular basis. And we all stay at the same few places. We run into each other there. That's actually why Camille, who did a bunch of my most popular episodes with me, we met her. One of my episodes, she's sitting in the background in like the day before we met her, and now she's done the show with us. But that's where we met her, filming the first episode of This Is Nicaragua, which is on Laguna de Apoyo. So if you have not seen anything on Laguna de Apoyo, go find the YouTube channel This Is Nicaragua, subscribe to it if you haven't already, watch the episode 2 or 3 times, and give it a like, comment on it, whatever. That would be amazing if any of you have not done that. Of course, this audience probably already has. It's the only episode on that channel. I swear we're working on more. I've been waiting for this camera for a lot of things, and I've got a lot of projects that are ready to hit the ground with new, interesting things. Now I have to find something that I just downloaded. Okay, this will be a little bit of challenge as I do this. And I have to cough, so excuse me for a second. All right. Oh, nice, it worked. It worked. So let me get back to the question. Then where do you go on from there? That's where it gets into a couple different things that you may want to do. San Juan del Sur definitely can be on the list. It is worth seeing in a lot of cases, but it depends what you're here for. You may want to go up to the mountains. Matagalpa is my recommendation, but a lot of people like Esteli. Those two are the most popular tourist destinations, so consider that as an option. But let me jump over to Laguna de Apoyo. That is Josie Marr, who was on the chat at the beginning, sitting with his back to the lake, and my buddy Brian, I was talking to earlier today, with a hat on, and of course me without a hat. That's why I wear a hat, because there's nothing up there to protect me from the sun. That was 2022, believe it or not. But that is Laguna de Apoyo, and you can actually see, probably not on your screens, but just up behind Josie Marr's head, there's a spit of land up there. That is the city of Granada, and the reflected shiny bit below the clouds is Lake Nicaragua, Lago Nicaragua. But the lake right behind us is Laguna de Apoyo inside the volcano. So beautiful. Okay, so that is you really, if you don't do that, you will regret it, because so many people don't do it, and you'll be like, it was so beautiful, I can't believe you didn't go. And the volcano at Messiah is an open volcano. Like, you get to see lava. The mountain towns, it's worth doing. Leon is worth seeing. If you're going to do just one beach in the country and you want to experience Nicaraguan beaches, then Las Penitas is your place to go, which you can do Leon and Las Penitas together, because it's the only beach that's like part of the city. Punta is too, but it's like an old, like, you don't want to do that. You want to do Las Penitas if you're as a tourist. And in both of those, you've got the cathedral, the beautiful waterfront. You can do tours of like nature stuff along the water, and that'll get you the majority of things in the country, except for, and I'm going to combine this, the other thing you have to see is Ometepe. And so Al wanted to recap, so this is perfect, because you both need, if it's your one time coming to Nicaragua, you can't skip Ometepe, and I'll give you my impressions of Ometepe. So Ometepe, it's not 100% positive, right? There are definitely negative things about it. It is a volcanic island in the middle of Lago Nicaragua. It's off the horizon in the photo that was just up, but it's out there, and it's absolutely amazing and just so beautiful. And there's about 50,000 people who live on this island. So there's a bunch of really cool experiences that you can have with Ometepe that you realistically will never get anywhere else, or you won't get very many places. And some of the things that I like to do include, one, I love just taking the ferry out to it. Like, it's fun to do a ferry in Nicaragua, at least for me. And that's such a unique thing. Like, so how many places do you get to take a ferry in the first place? And then to get to do it to a place in Nicaragua that's an island in the middle of a like it's really cool, right? Like the whole thing is just a really neat experience. Just the process of getting there, and then if you're once you're there, right, you're in this very serene, very remote island with 2 volcanoes in it, and it's so peaceful and remote. But do be aware, you're off the beaten path. You're away from everything. There's no one around. There's 50,000 people on the island, but they're in very isolated spots, and you're not going to be running with crowds at all, right? You're going to be spread out over this very large island, and there's mostly it's about relaxing, right? Do some climbing of the volcanoes, go check out the fresh springs, go get some. There is some good food on the island. There's a lot of things that are really cool and fun to do, but it's all about being really tranquil. And one of my favorite things, realistically, is just going to a nice hotel. Mostly very small. Like these are very rustic. This is not, when I say nice hotel, I don't mean fancy. And sitting near the water, where it's so quiet, especially at night, and just a slow meal with a couple beers, and just so relaxed, so much more relaxed than the ocean. I live on the ocean, right? And it doesn't compare to Ometepe for just how out there and relaxing and chill it is. So. I do love Ometepe. It also is really packed with tourists and hippies and backpackers. So I try to find ways where I can avoid that crowd to some degree. Like I'm not like, oh no, it's just I want to be in a little bit more of a more Nicaraguan type of vibe. So it depends where you want to go, but I like Ometepe a lot. It's really cool. I love being able to go out there and walk. I want to go out more often. The biggest problem for us is just it takes so long to get there, and so you spend a bit of time traveling to and from, getting on the bus or taking the ferry. Now we're supposed to be. We're supposed to have a ferry from the new port in Granada that goes there, so you don't have to take the bus down to San Jorge. However, the lake level has gone down, and so that ferry has not been running for a while, and now we're in the dry season, so it's not likely to start running anytime soon. We have to wait for another rainy season to return. So I think that ferry is currently shut down. That would be super cool, and especially we have this new train being built from the airport to Granada. In theory, you could fly in, get on the train, take the train to Granada, do your stuff in Granada, get on the ferry, and go directly to Ometepe without ever getting on a bus, without ever getting in a taxi, without ever getting in a car of any sort, and just this really cool Nicaraguan experience, public transportation from the airport all the way to the lake would be super cool. So that is something I'm looking forward to. Now, I've heard that ferry is going to be really long. The ferry from San Jorge is like 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on a lot of things. So anyway, that is, I enjoy Ometepe. Where was the question? I saw it. Nicaragua HD, what camera gear do you use to record Nicaragua? GoPro or a professional camera, perhaps? So I use a lot. I need to do an episode about this on a different channel. So if you're really into cameras, I have 2 channels. One that is active, Camera Cafe by Scott, where I talk about cameras. And then I have a new channel that's coming up about vlogging, where I talk about my specific vlogging. Yes, Ballway and Santa Cruz is definitely the touristy hippie center. Ballway especially is just so hippie. It's like you came into a commune. But there's some cool stuff there. I have a new show that I'm working on. I've already filmed some. I just haven't edited yet on the process of vlogging. So that's going to be like very much how I vlog, how you can vlog, because most of you won't know this. We are now at So first of all, in English language shows, I brag about this a bit, but a lot of you probably missed it. We're now the #1 show in Nicaragua by 300%. The show is at 1.1 million views per year and climbing fast. And a bunch of really neat statistics that I saw recently. I just discovered that a lot of people who inspired me to do vlogging, people who are big international vloggers, really respected, really well-known, famous. It turns out my show is in their so some of them, my show is bigger, which I can't believe, but even some of the really big ones like Hey Nadine, I'm in the ballpark of. She's certainly still bigger, but she's not bigger by like 10,000%, which is what I would have guessed. She's bigger by like 35%, which is, I can't even believe. And in really short periods, like I may have passed her, right? Like, what? So because of that, I'm actually moving into a range of vlogging where it's like I'm a very serious vlogger, which you guys are probably like, you're a pretty hardcore vlogger. We're coming up on 3 hours on a live stream on a show that does an everyday episode. We're pretty hardcore. But so I do a lot of different stuff. So what do I film with myself? I primarily film with GoPro because it's fantastic and just the workflow is so easy. So I have a GoPro 9, 11, and 12. I do most of my filming on the 11 and 12 now. My 9 is starting to wear out. But the GoPros do most of the work. For stuff like this, they're not very good. But outdoor, here in Nicaragua, you're right. Nicaragua is not yet saturated with vloggers. It's going to be a long time until it is. And busy ones keep dropping off. Like Jack Pittman had this fantastic vlog, and he did the interview with me, did one more episode, and I have not even, like, personally, I haven't been able to reach him in quite some time. So I have no idea what's going on. But he kind of took a hiatus and then was like, we're coming back and doing a show, did 2, and then took a hiatus again and just disappeared. So Elton and I talk, but we're kind of the only 2 that are like really, super active. There's a few new ones show up. We'll see how they do. But I know some of the rules for monetization. So I'll look at some of these shows. I'm like, they seem to be doing something. Gosh, they're so far from monetizing that are they going to be able to sustain this? I don't know. But you are kind of a big deal. That's how it starts. 3 dogs, 3 subscribers, and the next thing you know, you are the viral channel. It's true. My first dog video is just about to hit 100,000 views, and it's just my dog playing with a rubber ball. I need to find that somewhere so you guys can watch it, but it's on YouTube. Like, it's there. So the 3 GoPros are my workhorses. That's when I get a new camera, I'll play with it for a while, but I always go back to the GoPros. They're so easy to walk around, and their sensors and their setup is so perfectly tuned for incredible bright light like you normally get daytime in Nicaragua. So if you're doing anything outdoor in Nicaragua, the GoPro is going to be your best friend. It's got the balancing, so you can wave it around and not worry about stabilization. You're not going to make the audience sick. It's going to look good. It does 4K so well. It handles the bright light with aplomb. It's easy to use. Their auto update, their auto upload features, their auto clearing features on the new cameras are so good. That stuff just, once you get into the GoPro ecosystem, with at least an 11, don't get anything older than 11. I recommend the 12 because they dropped the price. So the 12 you can get brand new if you're a member for $299. And I know that's a lot of money in Nicaragua, but it is so good compared to the earlier versions and cost less. The 11 still costs more. So that was the thing. The feature of the 12 was that it was cheaper. It didn't add technical features. It actually took some out, but the battery lasts longer. It handles the heat best of any GoPro so far, and everything's tough, right? And it's cheaper. I also use 2 Insta360s. One is the X3, which is their current top of the line, small sensor, 360 cam. Love it. That's how I do Nicaragua 360. It is a lot of fun. I use it for a lot of like interesting footage of different things. The one where I recently drove to the beach and showed some cool like footage of just driving in a car, that was taken with that. There's a lot of times like you don't do a lot of filming with it. You could. But when I'm doing just interesting stuff, sometimes it's like, what was this cool shot? It was because I had the X3 out. I also have the Go 3 from Insta360, which it's only a 2.7K camera, as if that matters. But it's itty bitty, it's so small, and it's so much fun to use, but it's a little bit difficult to use as a main camera. You could, but you'd be struggling compared to a GoPro, and it's not going to save you money compared to a GoPro. I think it's actually like $450 because it's a specialty camera. But Insta360 in general, I recommend a lot. They're great. So those 5 cameras do a lot of my show. Then I have the pretty new, this is the one that you guys on the show bought for me, the Sony ZV-1. The ZV-1, 1 Mark II, and F are like the ultimate pocketable, high-quality vlogger cams. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to someone who's like, I'm just starting out in vlogging, what should I do? It's a bit more advanced. First of all, new, they push $1,000. So you really got to know what you're doing. You want to make sure you're able to edit it with it. You want to make sure that it meets the needs that you're going to have. But I love it. I find that the form factor and the look just makes me want to put it in my pocket. It makes me want to play with it when I'm places. I'm out at dinner and I'm getting pictures of my food. It encourages me to take it out and take pictures. It makes me seek out opportunities for photos and little video clips, whereas my iPhone, which takes beautiful pictures and I have with me all the time and I could easily use, it doesn't inspire me to get good footage and to do interesting things. I find it boring and pedantic. I love the images it produces much of the time, but I just don't feel inspired, which is a weird thing, but I'm really affected by that. And so I find that the Sony ZV-1 makes me make an effort to find ways or reasons to take it with me and to do things with it. And so because of that, I'm often out there taking pictures that I wouldn't before and getting cute little clips of B-roll so that I can add that, because that's something that's really missing from the show. And I think you guys notice it's one of the gaps on my show is the significant lack of B-roll. It's not zero, but there's not nearly enough, and that's a thing that with a little bit of work, I think we can really up it, and that camera is really inspiring me to do that. So trying to find a picture that I took with it, and of course I can't find it at all. It sucks. So anyway, so that one I really like, and I think that it's a really good tool if you're interested in getting into vlogging and having a really good arsenal of equipment. That's where getting into the ZV-1 or equipment like that is good, because so I have multiple GoPros. They're my workhorses. Then I have these Insta360s. They help get me interesting footage that I wouldn't otherwise get. And then the same thing is basically the ZV-1. If I'm going to be walking around a market and filming people that is not me, I'm filming other things, I find the ZV-1 is really powerful for that. It makes people think he's vlogging, right? And it's just a different experience. So it encourages me to do things. And then I have 3 really good professional cameras for video. I have some just photo cameras as well, because like we did earlier in the show, I used to be a photographer, really love cameras. I collect some. So that stuff does exist but in my collection. But my older cameras, I have an Olympus Pen EPL9, which actually produces really beautiful footage, and I can use it for a lot of things. And once in a while I do, like the footage of the frog recently was that. And then I have my absolutely professional Olympus OM1 Mark II. That's the one that people will stop me at performances and be like, what is this glorious gear you're using? And everyone who sees it is always like, what did you film this with? Why does this look so good? So that camera is amazing. I love it. And then my new one that we're recording on right now is the Fuji XS20, which is brand new and super professional and amazing. And I really love Olympus. And I'm not knocking my Sony. I've got several Nikons. I used to have a Panasonic Lumix. That's where I did. If any of you watch my show, Take Flight with Scott, everything that's up there currently was all shot on the Lumix ZF300, whatever it is. I like Lumix, but Olympus I love, but it's very hard to use. Its look is fantastic. Once I got my hand on a Fuji, and I knew this was going to happen, once I actually used the Fuji, oh my gosh, it is the best camera I have ever used by no small margin. The degree to which I love this camera is so high. And as a professional photographer who's had cameras in his hand for forever, I've been a Nikon user since 92. I've been an Olympus user since 1990. I borrowed Canons before that. I used all kinds of things. I've had digital since it first came out. The Fuji system is so good. I didn't know anything could beat my Olympus. And the Olympus produces some images that are just fantastic, but at so much price. For the Fuji just does the most amazing job you can imagine. So if you're looking for a professional camera, unless you're a glutton for punishment or like me or a collector and getting a lot of things, Fuji, if you can bring it in from the United States, is the way to go. If you can't bring it in from the United States, then I think Nikon is going to be your most available thing here in Nicaragua, and they do a great job, right? If I had to use Nikon, if I had to use Lumix, I'd be happy. The Sony, I love this little tiny camera, but if I was going to buy a larger camera, I don't feel Sony is up to par, and I find Canon completely uninspiring. So the amount that I would recommend the Fuji as the best price, best performance, best image, best experience you can have is that. Al is taking off early morning travel to Ometepe tomorrow. Awesome. Hitting the ferry to San Jose port nice and early. Oh, San Jose? Not Moyagapa? Normally you want to go to Moyagapa. Are you sure you want to go to San Jose? I've done San Jose only by accident and was sorry. Just because it's very hard to find a taxi or anything from there unless you have a hotel lined up there. You want Moyagapa, for those who might be going. So sorry for the long thing on cameras, but I love my cameras, and Nicaragua HD asked. So it gave me an excuse. But yeah, so huge range. Everything from action to 360 to pocket to pro. I use everything, and I find each one gives me a different reason to go out and take pictures or video, and each one causes me to take different types of video. So you will get completely different footage from me depending on which camera I'm using on any given day. And the show coming out tomorrow is going to be on the Fuji. And if you've seen the ones recently, some of them, they have this real big swirl in the background, and you don't really notice it until you say it. And then you're like, well, the background is swirling. That is the Fuji with the TT Artisan Vintage lens that creates that really cool effect. All right, I'm still looking for this picture. I was going to be all cool and load up another picture, but it doesn't seem to have given me... Oh, finally. I don't know what happened that took so long. Now we're going to show... this was because I wanted to show you the ZV-1 and how it causes me to go out and take pictures. So I was out having dinner the other night, and it's like the first time that I went out to eat since getting the new camera. And every time I go to Dr. Coffee, anytime I go to dinner, this is at Sua, I literally just throw it in my pocket. I have a little tiny carrying case. It's like a little tiny belt bag that carries like extra batteries for it. That's it. And that's so small it almost fit in my pocket. It encourages me to take it into restaurants and get food pictures, to just film every little thing. And so I'm really loving having a camera that isn't the iPhone. It's been good. Like, I really like how it looks. I like the results of it. It's definitely not the best camera. This is the little tiny Sony, but it's excellent, right? It's a 1-inch sensor. It's the RX100 repackaged for vlogging. So if that's the kind of thing you're looking for, it's very hard to beat. I will give it one quick recommendation is for most vloggers, right? The Sony ZV-1 and Mark II have a zoom lens. And with that zoom lens, you have this, it pops out and you have a little bit more range and flexibility, and that's really cool. But it is worth noting that you have to, let's talk. So we're on the Sony now. I'm talking to you on the Sony. And so this has a zoom lens, so it's a very small zoom range. So this is as wide as it can go. As telephoto as it can go, which is not that telephoto. Like, this is, I'm touching it, like it's right in front of me. And then this is as wide as it can go, and you can see how dirty my office is, right? This is the widest. So it's a very small range, but it's a very flexible range. It's very useful for everyday stuff. And this would be, right, if you're looking for a cool travel camera, this could fit the bill as long as you do your research, right? A lot of people just do better with an iPhone. But this is a wonderful camera. It produces beautiful images. It has an amazing lens, but with a small range. And the one thing I don't like really is that you have to wait for it to pop out, and it has all these mechanics and stuff that go on. And it's like, I kind of wish it was a little bit more pocketable and didn't have to wait for the lens to do things. And so the ZV-1F is actually a cheaper model. It's supposed to be stripped down. But what they did was replace this zoom lens with a just slightly wider, so it's currently at the widest, and so it would be just the tiniest bit wider than this, which is actually where you want to be for a lot of vlogging and a lot of street photography. Am I in focus? I think so. And hey, Douglas Solomon is here. How you doing? He's one of my regular email correspondents. And so, well, a little bit wider than this, because you can always just lean in, right? If I needed to talk, we could vlog like this and it would be no problem at all. And so I like the flexibility of the one that I have. But if I was buying it again, or if I was buying a second one, which I might do, I would get the F, because it's so much faster, because it doesn't have to load the lens, and the only lens it has is actually the one I would use the majority of the time. This one is just the tiniest bit faster for light performance, so it's an f1.8. That one's an f2, but f2 is really good and really close. So that would actually be my recommendation for a lot of people. A used ZV-1F would be an amazing carry around pocket camera that you could do really good vlogging with, that you could do really good travel photo with, that you could do really good food photo with, that you could do really good street photography with. Very flexible, and it's cheaper than this and just easier to use. But if you do want this more flexible lens options, the ZV-1 Mark II is probably the one you want. But there are some reasons why the Mark I was better for me, not to mention it was cheaper. That was the biggest feature, but that is the Sony. So I do love that. It is a cool bit of my kit. But yeah, so we crossed the 3-hour mark. My gosh, this is amazing. I wonder how long it is going to take for YouTube to render this video. I can't stay on all night. We're down to 11 people. It's fun to say. We're down to 11 after 3 hours. You guys are the best audience. I love doing this show so much because you guys are interesting and dedicated, and like, people do live streams and they do not get traffic like this, especially for show her throat clearing. Oh, it only shows 3 live. We've got 11 is what it says here, according to the official broadcast channel stuff. And for anyone who's on, take a moment to hit like. That helps promote the live stream when it comes back out. Clearing my throat again. No, you guys are just fantastic. So many shows never get an audience like this, where we're building a travel and relocation and Latin American and Nicaraguan community. Like, it's so cool that so many people depend on the Facebook groups, and there's nothing wrong with that. And discussion groups are cool and all, but they're so thank you. They're so controlled by private companies that have a very strong interest in selling things. I mean, I do too. Like, come eat at my restaurant, right? But I'm not going to tell you what one it is, because I kind of don't want to advertise it on here. Actually, I was told to not advertise our restaurants on here, because we get tons of people who show up and are like, "Where's Scott?" And they're like, he doesn't actually live in the restaurant, right? Like, he's here once a month. So it's like a constant thing of people showing up and then being like, "Well, can you page him? Can you have him come in?" And it's like, it's really cool that people want to see me, but it's also kind of impossible for me to live a life. And my wife will shoot everyone, right? She will just find a way to get a gun in Nicaragua, and she will come after you all if you start showing up at our house, which is what used to happen when I lived on the beach and we only had a tiny fraction of, like, when we had 200 subscribers. We started having people show up in our house because we lived on the beach, so there was no keeping people away from the house. They would actually show right up at our bedroom door and be like, "I heard Scott's here." And I was like, "Oh, this is a problem." Because there was no privacy, there was no escaping, there was no, and not that I don't want to meet you guys, I do. Like, it's fantastic. Come to Nicaragua, I love meeting with you guys, but I like meeting when we expect it to happen, or when you're just in my restaurant or somewhere, and you say hi, right? Not that someone I don't know who it is goes to the beach and then pages me and is like, "Why aren't you here?" And you're like, why would I be here? Like, I have a job to do. I have a vlog to do. I have to eat at other restaurants. I have to travel. I have lots of things. I have to play video games with my kids. I have a lot going on, but people imagine that since I own a restaurant that I must be there all the time. And I'm like, I don't even live in that town. So it's a little bit tough. But many of you are going to Desperados for the Super Bowl. I will try to be there. And so if you just show up, expect to see me. I might be a few sheets because the whole draft beer thing, if you don't know, was done as a present for me. That was a surprise. Yeah, it is. It does seem crazy that people just show up. Definitely, you need notice. So in Nicaragua, you don't get notice. The buenas culture, as I've heard it called, people just walk up to your gate, walk up to your door, and scream through your window, buenas, and that's how they announce themselves. They don't ring a bell. They don't text you. They have text. They could let you know 5 minutes before, but they don't. They scream buenas through the window, and you got to scramble, and your dogs are barking. That's a Nicaragua thing. But these are not Nicaraguans, so it's funny that it's happening. But people who watch my show, a lot have just shown up. Now, what's really cool is I've been at some really neat restaurants like La Avenida in here in Leon and Dragonfly in Chinandega, both places I recommend. I'm told La Avenida, the bathrooms are terrible, so make sure you use the bathroom before you go, or feel free to use it on the street outside. Just don't use it in La Avenida. It's terrible. That was for you, Patricia. But Dragonfly is one of my favorite restaurants in the country, up in Chinandega. Beautiful location. Totally different feel than anywhere else in Nicaragua. Good live music many times. My buddy Big Ronnie is often up there playing. And I was up there filming him one time for this show. If you see it's the episode where it says Big Ronnie and it's very colorful. It's like a bright red thumbnail. That night, I was sitting up filming, and the table behind me, in between sets, tapped me on the shoulder, and they said, "I just wanted to say thank you for the recommendation. I'm from the United States. I watch your show. You mentioned this restaurant, so we came to Nicaragua and came to this restaurant because you recommended it." And I'm like, this is not the city I live in. This is a restaurant I go to a couple times a year. I happen to sit back to back with one of my viewers in another city, and they recognized me, which is not hard, but they noticed me and took the effort to say hello. The number of times that someone is like nervous and doesn't say hello and they must be right next to me, I have no idea. Like, it's weird. It's super cool. But in like La Avenida, I was actually having drinks with someone from the channel, and the table behind me partway through tapped me on the shoulder and handed me some money and said, "You helped us move to Nicaragua. We haven't talked, but I watch your show, and I never wanted to buy you a coffee online. I want to buy you a coffee now," and just handing me money and like said thank you. And again, it was a person sitting directly behind me in a restaurant I almost never go to, and it was just like, so I get some of these weird experiences that are super cool. Like, it's so awesome. But then when it's and I don't mind at all when you're in the hotel and like you run into me and it's like, "Oh, you're here. That's so cool." Awesome. Like, I get that a bit, and then that's really cool. It's when people expect me to be there because I don't live there. Like, no, I can't just pop in wherever. So, all right. I feel like we're kind of winding down. I'm starting to ramble a little bit more. I'm glad we got another peeing on the street story. Unless a bunch of people pop in right now, I think it's, what do you guys think? We lost the light over an hour ago. We're well over 3 hours. I think we've proven that the equipment works. I do have to edit the video for tomorrow. I do need to play video games with my kids tonight. I have not had my dinner yet, so I think we're going to call it a night at this point. I'm really interested to see how well this turned out, but I can see the monitor over here with what is being shot out to YouTube, and I can see the monitor over here of what YouTube is showing, and it seems like it looks good. I heard the audio from the last one, and that sounded good, so I'm very encouraged by just how well this worked. So this has been super cool. I'd really love some feedback. I'm not sure where, probably in the show notes for this afterwards, but when stream, and I don't know that I can commit to a weekly one and do this like at a time. Like, this does not work because like Marcella, when she popped in, she was heading off to where we normally would go film for the night with Nika Roomba. And so a lot of times, like Friday nights, I'm not available. But this week I couldn't bring myself to go out, and I had to do this. So I will. I'm sure we got to get Clive on one of the next live streams. I'm sure he feels left out, and we got to get the cat on as well. She's much more nervous about being on camera, but we might be able to coerce her out. So thank you so much to everyone who stuck around. My gosh. And to everyone who joined us tonight and everyone who watches us in the future. This has been fantastic. As always, if you'd like to support the channel, go over and hit up buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. And that literally we're talking on, I'm going to unplug it and hold it up. I don't know if we can show it. No, I can't show it because the microphone's on it. But the Sony camera that we're using, literally Javier did a fundraiser through Buy Me a Coffee to get that camera for the show. So I'm very excited that I'm able to get new footage and do stuff with that. And it is making a difference, right? It's not just a reward for me, which it super is, because I love cameras and this makes me super happy. And as I explained to my wife, mostly I do this show to justify having all the cameras. And she's like, I know. But this was an amazing way to make me happy from the channel. But it also makes me happy that I'm able to go out and get new footage that I wouldn't do otherwise, that I always have it with me, and I'm really using it already in multiple ways. As always, like and tell some people about the show, but you guys are the regulars. If you're hanging out now on a Friday night after 3.25 hours, you're pretty hardcore. So thanks, everybody. Have a good night, and we'll see you on the show tomorrow. And definitely put in some feedback of how the live stream was, when would be good, how frequently, anything I need to know about the live stream, let me know. I know I need to have lights with more cables so I don't have to worry about batteries going out. That'll help a lot. I actually have a second one of these. I need to set it up so I don't need a battery-powered light, and that'll be way better. And Marcella is getting curtains for behind me so that it's all colorful and stuff, because that is drab, I realize. So awesome. Thank you again. Thank you so much. You're the best audience, and I will see all of you tomorrow.